This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate fourth part of What If Naruto Was Trained by a Legendary Samurai. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Who would win if young and old engaged in combat? Takashige was an experienced man, and not many things could shake the seasoned Sand Shinobi. Today, though, he was experiencing a strange sensation of anxiety. He could not make sense of what was happening in front of him. A Konoha force that he assumed to be smaller than his own was keeping the numerically superior Sand forces tightly in check. He was still unable to determine the precise number of enemy shinobi, but based on appearances, the Konoha force was quite large, as no small group of shinobi could be that strong. Takashige became aware of what was going on as the reports from the front lines poured in. Shit, pushed back on the right and middle flanks, while being drawn in on the left. Our left flank will be pulled out of position and will be isolated. Easy pickings for the very organized Konoha shinobi. This will force me to send in reinforcements and I will fall directly into the kid's trap. If I don't send in more men, the vanguard will be lost, giving Konoha the advantage. I know for sure that if I give the boy even the slightest of openings, he will strike with deadly precision. This situation is like being in quicksand. The more you struggle, the more you get trapped. Takashige angrily yelled to his commanders, racking his brains to come up with a potential counterplot. Send in 1,000 men to support the lead force and get another 1,000 ready to enter the battle. Help stabilize the force and get them back into shape, and then slowly retreat back our main force. Takashige was actually teasing the astute boy to see how he would respond. The Sand Shinobi said, "Hi," but they weren't just talking. Retreat. The primary unit of Konoha. Commander, in an attempt to hinder our progress, the enemy is deploying reinforcements to their right flank, declared Hyuga Kai, the scout attached to Naruto's mobile unit for the small army. Good. That means their middle is beginning to get weak. Let the Inuzuka, Aburame and Genjutsu teams conduct sneak attacks on the enemy's left flank, then constantly retreat to lead them into our trap. Let the Hyuga strike force attack the enemy's right flank and let the main force advance on the enemy. The man answered, "Hi, Commander." The commander of the main Konoha forces yelled, "Men to the front, remember that everyone who stands before us dies. Men of the Akamichi clan, clear a path for your brothers and sisters," Naruto commanded. The commander of the warrior platoon from Akamichi called out, "Hi, Commander." The big man yelled, "Akamichi special attack, Baika barrage." The long-range fighter leader watched as his colleagues moved closer to the adversary. The signal to launch their next attack was received. The frontline fighters are advancing on the enemy, teams 3 and 4, on my call. Explosive tags up 40 degrees and 30 to the left. Cover the Akamichi as they plow into the enemy's front line. Teams 1 and 2 launch smoke grenades up 50 degrees across 50 degrees so the Hyuga can strike at the enemy's right flank. Teams 5 and 6 disrupt the enemy's movements. Don't allow them to adequately support each other. The long-range fighters said, "Yes, Commander." The men and women of Naruto's force trained nearly non-stop, day and night, to perfect their attack patterns in the month before the pivotal battle. Every fighter was meticulous in their preparation, having a thorough understanding of the terrain. Every member of the force understood their responsibilities and that a single error could ruin all of their hard work. The individual units were able to work together seamlessly because each unit's movement served as a signal for the others to respond appropriately. Because every Konoha unit fought as one and never moved apart, the outcome was entirely unpredictable attacks on the enemy. On Konoha's left side, a platoon leader inquired, "How are our men keeping up?" "Good, we've got the enemy in check," a subordinate replied. Just then, there was a signal. The scout declared, "Sir, the signal's up. The Hyuga are getting ready to attack." "Good, everyone fall back to stationing point 1 and reorganize." "Hi. Everyone, next round of attack, switch out." The commander of the Hyuga strike force was keeping a close eye on things. "Men, it's time to launch our round of attack. Get ready." "Yes, sir," they exclaimed. Sand's right side. "Sir, we're losing ground. We can't keep up with the Konoha shinobi." "What?" exclaimed the boss. "Sir, the enemy is altering their attacks perfectly between the frontline fighters, the long-range fighter and the ninjutsu users. It's hard to predict what they are going to do. We can't engage their frontline forces effectively," the shinobi responded. They were suddenly hit by a barrage of smoke bombs that engulfed the whole area in a dense cloud of smoke. The leader of the left flank of the Sand yelled to his men, "Everyone, retreat out of the smoke." But a cold voice interrupted him in the middle of his sentence. "Too late to run, you should have thought about retreat a long time ago." The glancing attack damaged the chakra in the left arm of the Sand Shinobi, though he did well to avoid the blow intended for his heart. He realized right away that he was up against a Hyuga. The Sand Shinobi tried in vain to dodge his attacker, saying, "Shit, this is bad, we can't see them but they can see us." A perfect attack. A loud gust of wind blew the smoke away as he heard a voice behind him say, "Kei's Bakuha." Wind blast. Tasuki, a Sand Kunoichi, was both his lover and teammate. The commander of the right flank forces was unprepared for what he saw when the smoke cleared. A large number of the right flank forces were dead, some clutching their heads and chests and many with pained expressions on their faces. The man mumbled in fear, "Sue fast." "Yes, taking out the trash doesn't take long," remarked the Hyuga Strike Force commander. Tasuki exclaimed, "My dear, I'm coming," as she moved to defend her lover and leader. He yelled, "No Tasuki, look out behind you," but it was already too late. A searing pain shot through the young Kunoichi's heart and pierced the middle of her back. The final words the girl said before passing away were, "Hold my chest," and she dropped her fan angrily to the ground. I love you dear and I'm sorry." Her corpse collapsed to the ground, exposing a Hyuga shinobi. The man, now distraught and with tears in his eyes, tried to reach his dead lover in his weakened state, saying, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. No, no, no." All he wanted to do was die by her side at that moment, but seeing his beloved die before his eyes in a desperate circumstance broke his will to fight. The commander of the Hyuga strike group granted the distressed man's silent wish. In an instant, one of his scouts came back. "Leader, the attack was a complete success. The ninjutsu and taijutsu specialists are pushing back the deflated enemy." "Good. Reform ranks and secure the area for the medic teams to remove the injured and the dead. The commander needs the area cleared of all Konoha shinobi." "Yes, sir." Sand's left side, the Sand and Konoha shinobi were engaged in a fierce battle. The Sand shinobi leader urged his group to advance into the enemy's line of defense, saying, "Everyone push forward, the Konoha shinobi are beginning to falter." Everyone on the left flank of the Sand force desired to advance. Every report suggested that significant pressure was being applied to the remainder of their army. The commander of the Sand's left flank reasoned that driving back Konoha's forces would release pressure on the remaining soldiers by making the Leaf Ninja withdraw and reorganize to prevent being overrun. Thoughtful plan, but little did he know that he and his men were being guided straight into a trap. The battalion commander was so engrossed in driving the enemy back that he was blind to the fact that his men were being led deeper and deeper into Konoha's dense forest. It was too late when he and his men finally realized. The right flank of Konoha. Okay, with Inuzuka, the genjutsu expert, and the front line fighters making up the attack squad, the enemy has taken the bait and they're being led in far away from their main group, declared the squad leader. "They haven't even noticed the genjutsu we used to mask our force. Young commander is really something, it's exactly as he predicted. The enemy is almost in position. There is no time to think about that," the leader declared. "Get ready." The male and female members of the attack squad replied, "Hi." The leader yelled, "Slowly retreat and regroup, the enemy is gaining on us." "Ha ha ha ha. Konoha dogs run for your lives," boldly exclaimed the left flank leader of the Sand. However, his self-assurance was abruptly dashed when he heard the forest fill with the chorus, "Gatsuga." His men were completely unprepared for the attack on his Foss's flank. With a shout, the commander of Konoha's right flank declared, "No more retreat. Time to attack the enemy. Close and mid-range specialists follow me." The left flank leader of the Sand Force exclaimed, "Where did they come from?" as he watched the total reversal of events unfold before his very eyes. But when he heard, "Gatsuga," and saw two spirals of destruction approaching him, he snapped out of his reverie. He avoided the blow by the thinnest of margins. Inuzuka Ganru welcomed him with his big black dog, Denku. "I bet you're curious about our origins," smirked Ganru. The left flank leader of the Sand clenched his fist and answered, "Doesn't matter, you all will still die." "No, we won't die. Konoha will prevail. Too bad you won't be alive to see our triumph," Ganru said. The commander of the Sand left flank forces remarked, "Let's see then?" Ganru cried, "Denku. Let's go," the big dog said, "Roof," in response. Ganru yelled, "Double Gatsuga," as a man and a dog attacked from opposite directions. The Sand shinobi exclaimed, "Pathetic attack." The man exclaimed, "Daikei's Engo Hirate, great wind protection palm," as he extended his hands to create a shield that successfully thwarted the two-pronged attack. He did, however, have to avoid some explosive tags attached to kunai that were thrown in his direction as he successfully blocked the attack. Whoa, not bad, the Sand Shinobi exclaimed, but before he could even regain his balance, Denko attacked him. The dog was biting the man in the throat with its huge jaws. The dog was able to escape the Sand Shinobi, but he had to stop Ganru from attacking him from behind again. You're strong, Leaf Shinobi, but not strong enough. The Sand Shinobi wasn't done attacking, though, as he pushed Ganru away while yelling, Kei's Oshi. Wind push. Time for me to attack, now die. The leader of Sand's left flank yelled, Dai Kato Kei's. Great cutting wind, as he threw his technique at Denku and Ganru. No escape, we must defend Denku. Woof, let out by the canine. Let's go. With a roar, Ganru and Denku formed a large stationary Gatsuga that successfully defended against the deadly wind attack. Inuzuka's secret technique. Ichi Iden Gatsuga Benso. 1-point Gatsuga defense, she exclaimed. The Sand Shinobi leader was astounded that a close quarters fighter could evade such a lethal wind attack. No way. Ganru and Denku, bloodied and bruised but still alive, faced their opponent as the Inuzuka technique came to an end. Ganru said, blood streaming down his face, it's been a while since we've used that technique, Denku? The dog responded with a loud, woof, woof. He's a tough one, so let's use that technique on him. It's the only way to deal with that wind defense of his. The dog let out a woof, woof, seemingly signaling to his owner to get moving. Good. Ganru exclaimed, jumping up on his dog's back. Ganru exclaimed, let's show him why you're called Denku. The Sand Shinobi thought, here they come. I'll defend their initial attack and then finish them off with another Kato Kei's. But he was unprepared for how quickly the dog charged. He was unable to respond in time, and the next thing he knew, Denku had pinned him to the ground with his arms and legs. He yelled, shit, as a shadow passed over him. With Ganru's kunai slamming into his head, it was over in an instant. You weren't going to live to witness our victory, I told you, Ganru exclaimed. Denku, let's go aid the others. Woof, was the dog's response as they both ran into the trees to support their fellow fighters. The much better organized Konoha Shinobi quickly decimated Sans Foss's disorganized left flank after their leader was killed. They did as their commander said, and all those who came before them perished. Using Naruto's group. Everything is prepared, Commander, to Naruto, the tiger. Masked Anbu spoke. Okay, we need to draw in more of their forces first, but that will happen soon. Being pushed back on the right flank, pummeled in the middle and led into a trap on the left, the Sans vanguard forces are being put in a state of disarray. Their left flank will be split from the middle and the right, with a loss of communication, and fighting in unfamiliar territory would make them very easy targets. Why aim for their commander on the left flank? Kai inquired. Because they escaped my trap and need to be eliminated, and their commander will have to deploy additional forces to safeguard their middle and right flanks after the enemy's left flank is secured. Unless he desires to be without his vanguard. My unit, move forward to confront the enemy, Naruto gave the order. Hi, Commander. The young man's secret was unknown to the Hyuga scout, but he was confident that whatever method the child was using would work. In the vanguard of the sand. Oh my god. The enemy has completely stopped us, and we're even regressing, Shinoji pondered. Sir, the main force of Konoha is coming straight after us. The precise cover fire commander is keeping the Akamichi from hitting us while they batter. With that attack, we can't hold on for very long, a scout remarked. What? A hail of kunai with explosive tags flew over the advancing shinobi, erupting into a series of explosions, Shinoji remarked, looking at the wave of Akamichi wreaking havoc among his men. Then, to add to Shinoji's confusion, another report was received. Sir, we were completely destroyed by the enemy because our left flank went in too deep, said another scout. Too soon, everything was going too fast out of control. This wasn't how it was supposed to be, Shinoji pondered in his head. Shinoji gave the order, call for reinforcements from the main army. Another scout answered, Sir, they're already on their way. Good, try and get our men back into formation to hold the enemy back. Yes, ma'am, the scout replied. However, Shinoji received yet another alarming report. Sir, the enemy attacked us as we were splitting up to flank them. Under a thick cloud of smoke, a platoon of Hyuga attacked. Our blinded soldiers were unable to repel the Hyuga attack, and they are now slowly retreating until the smoke clears. The second in command of the Sans forces, Shinoji, was speechless. All right, Help them retreat and don't cut off contact with the main force. Inform them to reunite with the main group and hold out for reinforcements until they get there. Hell, how is this possible? How can I put an end to them? I had assumed Konoha was going to be the defense and us the invading force. Takashima was correct. This is not going to be an easy battle, Shinoji pondered while directing the advanced troops. The precise and accurate attacks by the Konoha long-range fighters, along with the sporadic attacks from smoke bombs and flash grenades that seriously hindered his troop movement, were pulling the sand forces out of shape on a regular basis. A young voice echoed throughout the chaotic battlefield as Shinoji was contemplating the situation when a volley of flash grenades landed in the area, disrupting his men once more. As his eyes recovered, he had to block a downward slash from a sliver blade. Well done, you averted that blow. Oh, what a conceited child, Shinoji growled. Similar battles were raging all around the two combatants as the two main forces battled for dominance. The smaller and more coordinated Konoha force was gradually taking control of the larger Sand Shinobi force, while the Sand main force was nearly completely dispersed. It's best for you to give up. You have no chance of winning here, Naruto informed the Shinoji. You fit the profile, so you must be Uzumaki Naruto. If given the opportunity, I have orders to eliminate you, Shinoji uttered. Naruto answered, that is much easier said than done. You're a kid who lacks battle experience, you won't last long against me. I'm still here even though others have said the same thing before. It would be prudent to give me some credit, Naruto retorted nonchalantly. The boy was studying the older shinobi in front of him carefully. While the man's form was solid, there were still some gaps in it. With confidence, Naruto declared, you can't kill me. You said what, little punk? The boy in front of him spoke with confidence, and Shinoji responded angrily. You can't kill me, I said. Your aura and body language both convey a sense of helplessness and bewilderment. You are unable to comprehend how your greater force can be subdued by such a tiny force. The child standing in front of you is finally making fun of your ability to kill him. Your entire left flank is gone, and the remainder of your forces are being driven back. Your life is meaningless to me, boy. I was going to give you a quick death, but now I'll make you suffer for your impudence. Fuuten. Daitopa, exclaimed Shinoji, hurling the powerful wind jutsu in Naruto's direction. I noticed that jutsu from a mile away, uttered Shinoji's peripheral, completely taken aback. Naruto made a remark after observing the man's expression. I told you already your movements give you away. My master taught me how to deal shinobi and their techniques. Tensing muscles, weaving hand signs, changing body posture all require time and makes the ninja vulnerable to attack. A shinobi is most vulnerable when they weave hand signs. Naruto went on. I might be physically weaker and less experienced than you, but what use is your experience or strength when you can't hurt your enemy? Naruto questioned the man. Though Shinoji had no idea what to say, he truly wanted to kill the boy in front of him. And then the boy said something else that made him even more angry. And besides, my 70-year-old master is a million times stronger than you. He'd kill me if I got killed by someone like you. Shinoji did a good job of remaining composed. You're stupid boy. He can't kill you if you're already dead. You don't know that old bastard. He's mean and doesn't like failure. Watch out. I'm approaching, Shinobi of the Sand, Naruto bellowed as he lunged toward Shinoji. Stupid kid, coming at me with a head-on attack. Futon. Shinoji said, K's. Tama, wind ball, as he hurled a sizable ball of wind toward Naruto. Naruto, however, saw the approaching attack coming from a distance and managed to avoid it mid-stride by slanting his weight to the side and moving his feet away from the attack. Naruto continued his movement after dodging the attack, directing his body weight back towards the shinobi with a slight twist of his feet in the opposite direction. This allowed him to charge a shoulder block straight at the astonished man. Naruto entered his opponent's guard and whispered, Doken, body becomes sword. Shinoji was sent flying to the ground, stunned, before he realized what was happening, and when he looked up, he saw a boy standing over him, a blade waiting to pierce him menacingly. The boy had charged his shoulder, hitting his solar plexus. Perish. But the boy's opponent would not go down without a fight, and Naruto had to sidestep a counterattack that came at him almost instantly as he stabbed at the stunned man who turned into a log. Shinoji yelled, K's no Yeba, blades of wind, as he hurled multiple jagged wind blades at his youthful foe. Naruto effectively avoided the potentially fatal wind attack by responding swiftly. Observing the boy's prompt response, he chose to escalate the situation by launching another elemental strike. Doden. Tsuchi. Tama. Rock bullets. The sand shinobi uttered as a barrage of earthen projectiles were launched at his opponent by his jutsu. Naruto uttered the words, "Buyu no Skikia ha," Dance of the Falling Leaves, while defending himself by obliterating every projectile that was aimed at him. "It's my turn now." Defying the blade aimed at him, Naruto threw his wakizashi at Shinoji, sending it skyward in the air, but in doing so, he left himself vulnerable to attack. Before he knew it, the boy was inside his guard, poised to strike. The child moves quickly. As he executed the first move of his chain attack, Kenbatsu no Shijin, Suzuku no Matami, Naruto said. In response, Shinwiji blocked with 2 kunai. He saw another blade aimed towards his face just as he was about to overwhelm the boy. He turned his head to avoid the falling blade, thinking, "What the?" He caught the falling blade and attacked with it immediately, but he forfeited his advantage over the katana by doing that. The pressure between the blade and the kunai was greatly reduced, and Shinoji felt his weight drop. "Suzaku Rijun, Suzaku returns," declared Naruto as he withdrew his katana, turned around, and launched a downward slash attack. Shinoji faced nearly simultaneous attacks, so he had to quickly change his defense strategy from low to high. "Now it's my turn, kid." While discharging his jutsu, Shinoji spoke. A strong wind formed around the sand shinobi in Futon. Tatsumaki Heki, tornado burst outward, blasting Naruto away and putting some distance between the rivals. "You're an excellent close-range fighter, so I'll keep my distance and finish you off," Shinoji said. "It's not going to save you by distance," Naruto said, taking on an unusual posture. The boy threw himself at his opponent, shouting, "Naiten Ichi! Ryu! Ryuren no Kurokami! Advent of the Dark Water Dragon! Idiotic child! Kei's Ketatamashi, piercing wind!" Shinoji yelled as he hurled intensely focused wind columns at his adversary. To Shinoji's complete amazement, the boy persisted straight ahead into the lethal gusts of wind instead of changing direction. The Sans shinobi wondered, does the kid have a death wish? But he was taken completely by surprise when he saw the boy skillfully move forward while dodging each and every one of the lethal wind columns. He felt a blade pierce his chest and his body crashed into a nearby tree, but it was too late to do anything. Shinoji questioned, his mouth gushing blood. What an attack! To simultaneously charge forward and avoid attacks at the same time. A fighter would never dream that his opponent would plow through his assault and attack him. He would have no time to react, just I did. After taking his katana from Shinoji's chest and dodging a hail of kunai, Naruto remarked, "You would have died had you not shifted your body at the last moment. It's unfortunate that I can't finish you off now because your reinforcements have arrived." Members of the Sand Forces surrounded their severely injured leader in a defensive formation facing their extremely formidable opponents, yelling, "Vice Commander Shinoji." Naruto watched from a distance as his front line fighters fell back behind him in disciplined, small groups of combatants. "Shinobi of the Sand, you all should surrender or face annihilation. You think you've won? This is just a small victory, we still out. Number you almost 4-1, Shinoji said. Your numbers mean nothing to me. Your lives mean nothing to me, Naruto said. I repeat, surrender or die. With his men gathered around him, Shinoji declared in a defiant tone, we'll never surrender. So you choose death? So be it. Stretching out his hand and clenching his fist, Naruto exclaimed, I promise you that your lives will not be lost in vain. As soon as Shinoji and the other sand shinobi nearby started to hear eruptions, they realized it was too late and they were all going to perish. The explosions echoed around him, and he could hear his men screaming. Shinoji thought, we were led nose first into this trap. Shinoji became more and more aware that their victory was merely a mirage the more he considered the circumstances. His subordinates' screams were growing louder and louder as the explosions drew nearer. The Suna commander and the last group of men and women who perished were being consumed by fire and debris. Shinoji's last vision before being engulfed by the merciless blast was the sharp-eyed young fighter responsible for this massacre. Shinoji remarked, I hope you really do put our lives to good use. And the great flames of destruction consumed him too. A short while ago with Ibiki. Ibiki was an unflappable man who was seldom surprised by anything, just like Takashige. On this particular day, though, he was genuinely taken aback by the reports he was receiving. Sir, Uzumaki's forces have defeated the Suna vanguard and forced them on the defensive, but Kakashi San's forces are having a tough time with the drug-induced shinobi of the Oto army, the stunned messenger said. By Kami. Who would have thought? The boy is really doing it. Mayushi held up an umbrella and said, you shouldn't be surprised. He questioned Mayushi, saying, "Humph, what are you still doing here with that umbrella?" "I am finished playing with those kids, they weren't worth it though I didn't even break a sweat." Mayushi sighed, "What a pity." Alongside Mayushi, 10 sound shinobi were fighting their way through the village when an odd elderly man carrying an umbrella approached them. "Hey kids, why don't you stop this foolishness?" The old man's composure completely surprised the sound shinobi. One shinobi said, "Hey, get out of our way, old man. Let's just kill him, we're under orders to keep no one alive," another said. Mayushi joked, "Huh, you snot-nosed little brats aren't able to kill me." A furious shinobi asked, "What did you say, old man?" Mayushi thought, kids these days are so dumb. "Encircle and murder him," the leader gave the order. The sound shinobi surrounded Mayushi and he remained motionless. Mayushi remarked, "Okay, not bad, but it's still hopeless." He claimed to have been attacked by an auto shinobi with a sword, so the other shinobi was taken aback when the elderly man merely caught the sword between his thumb and index finger. "Good strength and velocity," Mayushi remarked. Mayushi pushed the stunned shinobi back and said, "But you give off way too many signs that you were about attack. Try again, and if you really want to have a hope of making me almost breaking out a sweat, then you should all attack at once, anything else will be too boring." Mayushi was extremely disappointed as the stunned shinobi looked at each other, attacked the elderly man, and were quickly killed. Put an end to the flashback. Those kids were worthless, it was better to kill them and be done with it. Ibiki inquired, "How many did you kill?" "Oh, just 10, Mayushi casually said as Ibiki gave him a stern look and tried to determine whether or not he was telling the truth. "Anyway, didn't you know?" the scarred Jonin questioned. "Know what?" "It's going to rain today." "What? It's unbearably hot," exclaimed Ibiki. And then it happened. A mile of explosive tags erupted in a blaze of devastation and carnage, sending shockwaves through the entire village. Every battle ceased because of how loud the explosions were. The ground trembled in horrific, blood-curdling screams resounded throughout the now quiet combat zone, leaving enemies and injured alike unaware of their injuries and the fact that they were engaged in a life or death struggle. Even Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Sarutobi were stunned into immobility. At last the seemingly never-ending barrage of explosions stopped, but the fighters were too stunned to react. And then it took place. As indistinguishable objects started to fill the sky, Mayushi calmly opened his umbrella. After witnessing the sky fill with debris, the injured Jonin felt something warm and wet fall onto his face. It was blood. Soon, a rain of sand shinobi's corpses and blood covered the whole area. The detonation was so massive, so strong, and so far-reaching that the village was covered in debris. Konoha's enemies were demoralized as bodies, organs, appendages, and blood fell upon the village. The horrific scene strewn across the battlefield completely destroyed the enemy's will to fight. With his umbrella out, Ibiki heard Mayushi say as the bodies and blood fell from the sky in a horrifying way. "See, I told you it was going to rain." Mayushi had a silly grin on his face that said something, but all Ibiki could do was stare at the old man in shock. "See, I told you so." With Naruto. Naruto experienced a deep yearning for more bloodshed and combat as the explosions occurred, showering bodies and blood over the entire village. He held out his swords in a welcoming gesture, his body covered in the blood of his enemies. Naruto blurted out, "Lord Byako, Senka no Kami. Is this sacrifice of blood and flesh enough?" Out of instinct. The experience being had by the men and women of his army was already astounding. They had never in their lives encountered such a sudden and horrific death. They would never forget the image of their youthful commander rejoicing in the blood of their enemies and pleading for more to be spilled. The nausea that overcame some of the younger shinobi as bodies and blood rained down on them was possible. When the head of a sand shinobi rolled and struck a young shinobi in the leg, the shinobi's face turned horrified. The young shinobi started to throw up. The young shinobi found it too much, but the tiger masked Anbu gave him a harsh rebuke for it. "Get your ass in gear or get out of here, boy. The war isn't over." "Yeah, sir, I'm okay," the youthful shinobi replied. A very loud and deafening explosion that sounded like the roar of a large tiger bursting with eager energy for more was the response to Naruto's question. Naruto answered after hearing the God of War's response, "Then I shall give you blood and flesh until you have had your fill." The boy yelled, "Everyone, rampaging bull formation." The army divided into two groups as Naruto gave his orders. One group attacked from the left and the other group attacked from the right. With his men all covered in blood, Naruto turned to face them and spoke in a way that only served to inflame their rage. I'm still hungry. Are you? He exclaimed before racing right into the center of the detonations. We're still hungry, the entire army cried out with great fervor. We want more. The tiger. Masked Anbu declared, everyone head out for a direct attack on the enemy. The Anbu with the cat mask on said, let's go cover the commander. Hi, let's go, the Anbu with the swan mask exclaimed as she sprinted into the explosions. Naruto's Anbu guard soon leaves to provide him with cover. Alongside Takashige. As Takashige heard his men scream and was covered in their blood, he thought, I knew it. It was one of those times when having the upper hand didn't feel good. The carnage unfolding in front of his eyes left him speechless. Konoha was far from being vulnerable. I bet the man who delivered the war plans to us didn't even know he was being used to set a trap, and I can't shake the feeling that young Uzumaki had something to do with it. What should we do now, sir? A subordinate asked, his voice full of fear. Takashige was in for another surprise, though, as he declared, we slowly retreat. Starting from here, we will set traps should the enemy decide to pursue us in our retreat. This battle is lost. With Naruto inside the blast, Naruto was moving straight toward the enemy in preparation for a surprise attack, navigating through falling trees and explosion debris. He was moving forward by sensing the falling objects with his ki. Using the upward momentum of one of the large branches that had been uprooted by the explosions, Naruto continued to ascend higher and higher into the sky. Another massive explosion occurred, sending large branches of trees flying into the air. The adversary would never anticipate his onslaught. With the Shinobi of Sand, a huge explosion happened and momentarily stopped the last group of sand shinobi near the outer circumference from retreating. Shit. We're the last group to get out of this mess. We've lost so many men. The battle was supposed to be an easy victory, a shinobi said. I heard the men saying that the commander of the Konoha army is responsible for this victory. You mean Uzumaki Naruto? Yes, he's the one that is leading the Konoha forces. But he's just a kid. He's not just a kid, ordinary kids don't blow armies up. Their conversation abruptly came to an abrupt and violent end. The boy's form, a small boy with blue eyes and blonde hair, stood between the two shinobi, and that was all they could see. They knew who he was right away. They both said, Uzumaki Naruto? Before their bodies parted ways. Too stunned to move, the other surviving sand shinobi stood there. They were all thinking, where the hell did this boy come from? In reality, they should have been thinking, how are we going to get out of here alive? Silently, Naruto approached them. Action was all that was required, no words or conversation. The sand shinobi was completely unprepared for the explosion and never would have expected a lone fighter to attack them right after. Naruto launched himself at another stunned shinobi, cutting his throat cleanly with the momentum of the downward attack. The boy remembered his master's words as he killed his dumbfounded enemies. On the battlefield, all lives become meaningless. He skewered another man with his wakizashi while severing the man's throat with the katana from a distance. Naruto grabbed the hilt of his short sword as the body hit the ground, and the weight of the body pushing against the earth was enough to push the blade out of place. When fighting multiple opponents, never let your mind rest on any one opponent for too long. This is the true meaning of the flowing water cut. Now that he had both of his blades back, Naruto charged straight at the other shinobi, who was having trouble regaining his composure. But it was too late, and the sand shinobi was stabbed in the heart. One shinobi exclaimed, "Shit, we're being attacked by one fighter." Another shinobi opened his mouth to say, "It's just a kid, kill him quick," but Naruto's wakizashi stopped him. A moment of distraction means death. For you or your opponent, never get distracted and attack while your opponent is distracted. Moving through a stunned crowd of shinobi, the boy was embodying the lessons that Mayushi had taught him. The battlefield's wisdom. The scene where death and bloodshed first began. With a single blow to the vital points of each enemy, Naruto killed them all, his mind empty in the process. Nothing to think about, just do. As he launched himself through his opponents, the boy thought to himself, kill and move on. Don't let your mind rest on one opponent, Naruto. With the shinobi of sand. The sudden attack by the lone child caught many of the sand shinobi off guard. He can't be more than 12, but he's cutting down my comrades left and right. Where did this kid come from? A sand shinobi thought. But just as he was finishing up this diversionary thought, he noticed a thin white light, and then his world split in two. His young assassin's strangely serene face was the last thing he saw. The enraged shinobi didn't even have time to say, "You bastard, that was my fry," before his throat was sliced by his opponent's razor, sharp blade. The Sand Shinobi had already taken up a defensive arc and were alert. "I am going to get you, you stinking little." Everyone heard the sound of metal hitting metal, clang. The chatty Sand Shinobi looked completely startled. Takashige, the commander of Sand, was it. Rage always leaves a lot of openings, stupid fool, you nearly died for not remaining calm. As the Shinobi said, "Sorry, Commander, now go with the rest of our comrades in retreat." As he pulled away from the opposing Shinobi, Naruto remarked, "It seems I've lost the momentum for now." "I'm glad to have finally met you, Uzumaki Naruto," remarked the seasoned Shinobi. Naruto asked, quizzically, still completely on guard, "You know me?" "Yes, we were given strict orders to eliminate you if given the opportunity." "You know, I'm not to be taken lightly," Naruto answered. "Yes, I know. You're never to be underestimated. Your enemy, and our betrayer Orochimaru underestimated you, and the Sand paid for it with the blood of almost 3,000 of its beloved shinobi," Takashige said. "You kill with frightening precision, taking advantage of your enemy's fleeting moment of distraction to kill them." The seasoned Sand Shinobi exclaimed, "Your master taught you extremely well." As for Naruto's Anbu guard in the interim, the 4 Anbu were struggling to find their way through the debris surrounding them. It was a lot like the typical Anbu obstacle course for beginners. The Shinobi with the tiger mask asked, "How did the little runt get through this so fast?" "I don't know, but it has to be some form of specialized training that he received. Hokage Sama told me in the debriefing that the boy is very adept at sensing danger around him," the cat masked Shinobi said. "The bird," masked Anbu exclaimed, "so that explains how he was able to get through this mess so fast. That's incredible to be able to do that at his age. He's going to be a formidable fighter when he gets older," the bird masked Anbu said. The Shinobi wearing a tiger mask remarked, "If he's still alive after that reckless action of his." "Yes, let's move quickly," Cat replied. However, the Anbu trailing group noticed a noteworthy sight. With his swords drawn and surrounded by multiple corpses, Naruto was having a conversation with a Sand Shinobi. As the 4 Anbu fell into defensive positions around their young leader, Swan asked, "Commander, are you okay?" "You're too careless," Cat remarked. Takashige broke off the discussion. "Actually, he wasn't reckless. It was a great and successful surprise attack as evidenced by the bodies of my subordinates so expertly killed. No one would expect one fighter to suddenly assault a much larger group. You're a formidable opponent for one so young. I knew you had a trap laid out, but I never expected it to be this devastating. Luckily I sent in only half my men and thus avoided losing the entire army in the explosion." "You knew that I had set a trap?" Naruto inquired. "I bet you were the one who orchestrated the false map to be sent to Sand using the Orochimaru's mole in the village," Takashige responded. The Sand commander's disclosure stunned everyone. All eyes were staring forward, thinking, how far ahead is this child thinking? "Death was the only outcome for those who attacked my village," Naruto said. With a wry smile, Takashige inquired, "Your village?" "Yes, this is my village in the same way that it is the villages of all the men and women here." At that moment, the Sand Shinobi saw silhouettes of the other Konoha Shinobi forces emerging from behind the boy, through the cloud of mayhem and destruction. Every individual in a village has a personal responsibility for the protection of his or her village, Naruto went on. We all own the village, both individually and collectively. Takashige remarked, "Your master taught you well, boy. I have to go now. I'm sure you have more important things to take care of. Consider the drug-induced auto army that Kakashi is currently battling. He must be struggling greatly with them, in my opinion. The Sand is no longer Konoha's enemy." Naruto believed the man for whatever reason. "Indeed. Your men don't seem to be getting ready to attack, instead, they have pulled back to a safe distance. I am excited to follow your progress, Uzumaki. Stay alive." Saying this, Takashige vanished into the sand. "What commands do you now have?" Tiger inquired after overhearing an odd exchange of words. "Go according to plan. A fifth of our men follow me to assist Kakashi-san, while the others go to the village to assist in eliminating the last of the enemy shinobi. With Kakashi at the east gate, tell the men to retreat to the next stationing point and hold a strong defensive position," Kakashi ordered. "Yes, Commander. Damn it. What are these things?" Kakashi thought to himself while fending off Orochimaru's drug-induced shinobi. "We need reinforcements, otherwise we'll be overrun by these monsters." The East Gate battle. It was really difficult for Kakashi's army to repel Orochimaru's men's onslaught. These so-called ninjas were more like beasts than people. They had no concept of pain or fear. But Kakashi was unaffected by this because their berserk attacks were straightforward and linear, making it simple for him to counter them with his Sharingan and extensive fighting experience. The issue for Kakashi was that, out of all the soldiers in his army, only he and his pupil Sasuke possessed the Sharingan. While the lower-ranked ninja were struggling to survive the enemy's vicious attacks, the Jonin were able to hold their own against the enemy. To make matters worse, Kakashi had a troubling suspicion that this was not the entire force of the enemy. If his intuition was right, he and his men were in for a very bad time. Kakashi. Dono, the monsters are too strong, even our long-range attacks aren't slowing them down. Only the explosive kunai are keeping them at bay, but we're almost out of those. We must retreat, one of his captains said. No, we must hold on. If we retreat, the entire village will be in danger. Reinforcements will arrive soon. We can't retreat as yet, Kakashi responded. The captain yelled, I hope you are right, Commander. For all our sakes, and quickly retreated into combat. Kakashi realized that he might be forced to flee back into the village or risk losing every soldier in this fight as his defensive line began to deteriorate. Perhaps they would have a chance at winning if he withdrew into the village and the villagers combined might prove too formidable. That course of action, however, would exacerbate the chaos already present on the battlefield, and the outcome would be negative rather than positive. Luckily for Kakashi, a messenger arrived with good news, so he wouldn't need to resort to such a scheme. Kakashi. Dono, Commander Naruto says to divide the army into 2 equal groups. Let the first group defend while maintaining a constant retreat and let the second group to quickly work its way around to the left side of the enemy. Let your long-range fighters get to the rear and the close mid-range fighters to the front and just follow the commander's lead. Kakashi quickly realized, I see. A flanking maneuver, we're going to attack them from 3 sides. Yes. Commander Naruto is leading the reinforcements as we speak. You need to hold out until it is time counterattack. Relay the message to the front line fighters. Tell them to stall the enemy and minimize troop loss, Kakashi commanded. Hi, was the man's reply. Kakashi yelled, you, at another captain. Tell the retreating group to form an explosive barrier as large as possible directly behind us to cover our retreat. Yes, sir. The messenger exclaimed, racing to obey his commander before disappearing into the back. Naruto's army needed to persevere through all hardships if his plan was to succeed. Alongside Kimimaro, as his army steadily put the enemy on the defensive, the stoic Kageyuya watched. In addition to destroying Konoha, his lord intended to test the effects of a new medication he was developing in order to produce super soldiers for his army. The experiment's initial phase has gone well so far. Muzigan, or Limitless, was a medication that was working pretty well. It is a medication intended to completely open the brain's cellular pathways controlling the body's physical functions. The end result was the loss of pain and fear perception along with superhuman strength and speed. They were berserkers, but the price they had to pay for their incredible strength and speed was their mental faculties. One of the regular Auto Nin said, Sir, the Konoha ninja's defensive line is barely holding on. They are no match for our enhanced soldiers. Yes, our enhanced soldiers are very strong. The ninja of Konoha cannot deal with the might of our Lord Orochimaru, another said. Unfazed by his subordinate's gloating comments, Kimimaro inquired, any news about Uchiha Sasuke? Yes, it was difficult but we were able to locate him. He's within the left flank of the defensive line along with his teammates. Good. Send in group of kamikaze berserkers directly in the defensive line's left flank. But sir, wouldn't that kill the boy? Kimimaro straightened up and prepared for battle by cracking his neck. If he is weak he will die in the attack. Our lord has no need for weaklings in his army. However, if he is strong then surviving the attack won't be too much of a problem. Upon my signal, send in the rest of the army to destroy everything in the village. Yes, sir, they all exclaimed, then proceeded to complete their allotted tasks in a disorganized battlefield. In conjunction with Team 7, like the other fighters in the defensive line, Sasuke, Sakura, and Tsuko were engaged in combat to hold their defensive position. These things just keep coming, Tsuko exclaimed, damn it. Sasuke remarked, no time to complain, Tsuko, more are on the way. Under Kakashi's guidance, Team 7's collaboration quickly improved, and the outcomes were clear. What was keeping them alive was their teamwork. With Tsuko and Sakura offering defensive cover and medical support, respectively, Sasuke would lead the charge. Still, a terrible surprise was in store for Konoha's defensive line as a fresh wave of berserkers approached. The hideous wave, which was half man and half beast, just rushed headlong into the group. With his eyes instantly recognizing the threat, Sasuke exclaimed, "Shit! Everyone take evasive action. These beasts are loaded with explosive tags." Without waiting for additional alerts, the Konoha shinobi made every effort to avoid detection. The left flank of Kakashi's defensive line was rocked by a barrage of loud explosions and spine. Tingling screams as the kamikaze berserkers charged among the Konoha shinobi, wreaking massive havoc on the force. When Kakashi heard a chorus of explosions and screams, he knew right away that his army's left flank had either been completely destroyed or was very close to being destroyed. Kakashi thought to himself, "Shit, I can't send reinforcements, we're all tied up here." His concerns were for his men and his students. "Sasuke, Tsuko Sakura, live," murmured Kakashi. The formation of the defensive line would be broken, and the army as a whole would start to sputter. They were having problems. When Sasuke emerged from hiding, he saw a horrifying scene with blood and dead bodies all over the place. He could see the looks of shock on the faces of the remaining Konoha shinobi and hear the cries of the injured. The young Uchiha fought the impulse to throw up everything in his stomach. He had never really fought in a war before, so nothing could have prepared him for this. But fear took over his disgust in a heartbeat. Sasuke yelled, "Tsuko, Sakura, where are you?" But neither of his teammates answered. The boy exclaimed, "Tsuko, Sakura, Tsuko, Sakura," to his teammates. His eyes started to well up with tears, but he dared not let them fall. "No, no, no, not again." The youthful Avenger shook his head, disbelieving, "Not again." Though Sasuke wouldn't say it aloud, he grew to like his teammates. Sakura had become less annoying and Tsuko was still loud and foolish, but he was slowly but surely forming relationships with his teammates, relationships he vowed he would never form with anyone again. But then he noticed two recognizable chakra signatures in his peripheral vision. Glancing deeper, he saw his teammates' forms. Somehow, they had withstood the savage assault. Nevertheless, Sasuke observed more than just his teammates' chakra signatures. A fresh wave of berserkers was gathering in the distance, and his friends, still in their prone positions, were squarely in the path of their approaching attackers. As he hurried to his teammates, Sasuke thought, "No, I will not lose them again." A shinobi who survived the kamikaze attack exclaimed, "Stop, kid, are you crazy? You're going to die. We need to retreat and regroup before we can defend again." However, the Uchiha ignored what he had to say. The man thought, "Crazy kid." The weight of her teammate's body above her startled Sakura. She muttered, "Tsuko, Tsuko, are you alright?" The girl started crying, thinking the worst. She was only able to recall Tsuko flinging his body in front of hers to keep her safe. She heard Tsuko's heavy groans of pain, and her fears gave way to relief. He asked, "Sakura, are you okay?" She answered, "Yes, I am, thanks to you." Tsuko said, "Good. I think I am going to faint now," just before he passed out from blood loss. She exclaimed, "Baka, don't." Sakura heard and then saw another wave of berserkers approaching her, giving her no time to assist her teammate. As soon as she attempted to move her legs, a sharp pain shot through her body. Her legs were immobile due to severe damage. She was overcome with resignation, realizing that their time was running out. "This is it, we're both going to die for sure now," she thought to herself as the raging fighters hurtled toward her, their hands poised to deliver the fatal blow. She was interrupted in her thoughts, though, when she heard a single, sharp sound and saw Sasuke's head shoot skyward as its body plummeted to the ground. Sasuke inquired, sounding somewhat relieved, "You both okay?" "Yes. Tsuko is unconscious and I have a badly injured leg and not enough chakra to heal myself." Confidently, Sasuke exclaimed, "Don't worry. I won't lose my precious people a second time." "What?" Sakura questioned, perplexed. "Precious people?" The young Uchiha threw himself at the charging beasts with newfound vigor to defend his friends and said, "You all shall not go any further." He skillfully slashed off the head of another beast with a single blow with his sword. The others became even more enraged upon witnessing another berserker fall. The young Uchiha drew them in like a moth to a flame. He said to himself in a whisper, "Forward." Sasuke was unfazed by the increasing number of enemies that were coming his way. It was odd of him to treat his teammates like friends, but that is what they were to him at the moment. He would not allow his friends to perish. "Hold on, Sakura and Tsuko." Sasuke felt his vision improve in the face of the numerous attacks that were directed at him and the feeling that he was on the verge of death. The enemy's movements appeared to become more deliberate and slower. It became easier to attack them because it was now obvious where they were vulnerable. His perception was getting more clear. "What's this?" Sasuke wondered as he dispatched the creatures one by one. He wanted to avoid using jutsu because his chakra was almost completely depleted. He wasn't thinking about anything other than keeping his friends safe. The madmen came to a halt. They were attempting to understand this non-falling entity in front of them. They appeared to have retained some of their innate instincts. There was an inner strength in the boy that caused them to pause for a moment. With a slow step, Sasuke approached his momentarily stunned adversaries and muttered to himself once more, "Forward." He used that one word as both his fuel and his mantra. With each stride he made forward, his friends would have a chance to retreat. For everyone trailing behind him, each step he took forward was a ray of hope. With each stride he took, he encountered new challenges to overcome. The youthful vigilante had long since lost all sense of where he was going. All he saw in front of him were adversaries attempting to seize his most valued possessions once more. He made his declaration once more, his vision unclouded and his resolve unwavering. "Onward!" he exclaimed, barreling right into his adversaries. The berserkers eased up their assault on the remaining defensive line because they were preoccupied with this enemy who would not die. Unintentionally, Sasuke released pressure on the remaining soldiers, allowing the defenders to withdraw. Alongside Kakashi. "What's going on? Their attacks seem to have weakened a bit." "Commander Kakashi. Uchiha Sasuke is fighting off the beasts by himself," a scout said. Kakashi exclaimed, his heart thumping with fear. "What?" "Yes. Sasuke is keeping them at bay, protecting his friends and the injured behind him. All the beasts seem to just flock to him. It gave us a chance to get the wounded to safety." With a firm tone, Kakashi ordered the rest of the group to retreat while he hurried towards his students, to await orders for the counter-attack. Alongside Sasuke, the young Uchiha was battling the beasts, but his energy was waning and it seemed like the beasts were attacking him from every angle. However, when a brand new, formidable foe entered the fray, the fight abruptly changed. As he battled through the never-ending barrage of attacks, Sasuke sensed a powerful chakra signature approaching him. This chakra isn't like those of the beasts. Another troublesome enemy, he thought. When Sasuke saw two of the beasts skewered by a shinobi brandishing a bone, he was taken aback. The beasts instantly recognized their leader and came to a stop. Kimimaro said, "Sasuke, I am glad to have finally met you." Sasuke inquired, "Who are you and how do you know my name?" "Before I answer you, let me deal with an uninvited guest." Kimimaro gave his berserkers an order, saying, "Go and deal with the masked ninja, don't let him disturb us." The beasts attacked Kakashi right away in return. Kakashi headed toward his two hurt pupils. When Kakashi noticed his other student sparring with a pallid-looking shinobi, he said, "Sakura, Tsuko, are you alright?" "Yes, Kakashi. Sensei. I have a badly injured leg and Tsuko is unconscious but okay," Sakura responded. Kakashi instantly performed a cage. "Bunshin. Take them to receive medical treatment while I go get Sasuke." "Hi!" exclaimed Kakashi's clone. The original Kakashi was under attack from the berserkers as he traveled to assist his last pupil. Now that Sasuke was by himself, he was unable to continue. With Kimimaro and Sasuke. "Now that the uninvited guest is occupied, my name is Kimimaro and I am one of Orochimaru-sama's personal guards." With a tone of anger, Sasuke asked, "What does Orochimaru want with me? He put this stupid mark on me and I want it off." Kimimaro was not deterred by the boy's tone of anger. "You and my lord have a lot in common. You want to kill your brother to avenge your clan and my lord can give you that power." Sasuke's body tensed and his grip tightened around his blade's hilt as soon as he learned about his clan. Sasuke questioned warily, "Why does Orochimaru want to give me power? What's the catch?" Kimimaro grinned. "That mark on your neck is the mark of Lord Orochimaru and only the strong can receive that mark and survive. However, as you correctly deduced, there's a catch." "Explain it to me," Sasuke yelled. "Your freedom, that's the catch." With surprise, Sasuke exclaimed, "My freedom?" Kimimaro answered, "Yes. Once you use the power given by the seal you will, bit.by.bit, lose your sense of self forever. Your freedom is the price you pay for power. Yet, that power is enough to avenge your clan with Orochimaru's personal training, of course." "That bastard, I am no one's slave," Kimimaro said coolly. "Of course you aren't, but do you not want to avenge your clan? As you are now, you are no match for Itachi." As soon as Sasuke heard that statement, his blood started to boil. It was accurate, not yet had he reached Itachi's level. "Look around you. Look at all the destruction caused by my lord's berserkers. They are but low-level pawns that are being tested to gauge their efficiency. Kimimaro told the boy in front of him, "Our army is smaller than yours, yet you all are firmly on the defensive. Konoha is no longer the village it once was. It can do nothing for you. This is power of Lord Orochimaru, and with his personal training, vengeance will be within your grasp." Sasuke was starting to heed the words of the pale shinobi. Reminded of his mission to exact revenge on his clan, he realized that his purpose was being undermined by the sense of friendship that was beginning to grow inside of him. "But first, you have to pass my test to be trained by Lord Orochimaru," the ninja with the bone swords declared, forming two of them. "Let's see how good your sword-wielding skills are against an opponent who actually thinks." The charge of the top warrior of Orochimaru jolted Sasuke out of his dazed stupor. Within the village, close to the walls, the Konoha shinobi were fighting valiantly to keep the invaders away from their valuable village. The sand shinobi and the snake summons had been neutralized, but the berserkers were still tearing through the village. A horror story wouldn't be complete without a demon, and the blood-soaked village and the frantic fighting inside it looked like that. Gaara of the Sand was the demon in this horror story. The boy went insane from the rain of body parts and blood. Gaara cried out in a crazed glee, give me more," as he tore through the village, killing everything in his path, shinobi and berserkers alike. One of the Konoha fighters in the village exclaimed, "Shit! We can't touch him. The sand is blocking all our attacks." "Didn't we defeat the sand already? What are they still doing here?" another asked. "It doesn't matter why they're here. They're here now, and that's all that matters." The captain exclaimed, "We have to get rid of them." As he dispatched the last of the Konoha shinobi, Gaara exclaimed, "He. Eliminate me? Don't be foolish. These shinobi are weak. Where is Uzumaki? Where is Uchiha?" Gaara asked. A hail of kunai fell upon them as he was finishing his remark, which he easily deflected with his sand. "More ants come to be stomped," one of the fighters said. "Captain, he fits the description that Commander Uzumaki gave us. They belong to one of the reinforcement groups sent to support the village fighters." After receiving Gaara's description, they were given strict instructions to get him out of the village as quickly as possible. He had to be extremely dangerous to be given such orders, though they weren't sure why. How to get him out of the village was the issue. That armor of sand makes him very confident. Maybe we can pull him out of the village by taunting him a bit," the captain mused. A brilliant but very risky plan that the captain came up with. But Gaara became angrier the more you teased him, and an angry Gaara was not a nice Gaara. "Okay man, he's a weakling who only uses his sand to defend and attack. The close-range fighters will take him head-on and the long-range fighters will retreat back to the city walls." He. "How weak am I?" growled Gaara. The shinobi was forced to quickly flee as he unleashed a wave of sand, saying, "I'll show you who's weak." That was insufficient, though, because the majority of the group was buried in the sand. The captain exclaimed, "Shit! Retreat and regroup with the rest of fighters near the wall. He's a monster," the captain said. Gaara scoffed at his rivals. "Retreat? I thought I was a weakling?" He cried out, "You're not going to escape me," as he pursued his victim. Kankuro shouted to his sister, "Let's go to Mari, we can't let him out of our sights." She answered, "Yes, let's go." As they led the combative sand shinobi further out of the village, the captain thought, "The plan is working. We're getting him out of the village. I now understand why young commander wanted him far away from the village." "Captain, we're heading straight for Commander Naruto's force." The captain retorted, "Shit, try and warn them. Gaara, they're leading us to a large shinobi force, possibly to Uzumaki," Tamari said. Gaara exclaimed, Good, I'll kill them all," as he broke off his pursuit and used one of his more lethal moves. He exclaimed, "Ryusa Bakuryu, quicksand waterfall flow," as a sizable sea of sand erupted from the earth and charged in the direction of the moving object. Alongside Naruto and the other men under his command were moving quickly to support the forces at the East Gate who were under siege by Orochimaru's berserk army after completely decimating the Sand's forces and forcing them into a full retreat. Naruto yelled, "Report," as the scout approached him. "The forces are barely holding on, but they are retreating as you instructed." They incurred heavy casualties when a wave of berserkers bearing explosive tags crashed into their left flank. They show no signs of fear or pain, and even when they received grievous injuries they still kept attacking. No fear, no pain, nothing to lose. They're very dangerous opponents. "Get me the leader of the both long and short mid-range fighters," Naruto said. The scout returned to the main force to locate the commander of the long-range fighters, saying, "Hi, young commander." The leader finally showed up beside Naruto a few minutes later. As soon as they arrived, The two men said, "Yes, young commander." "How many rounds of explosive tags, flash grenades and smoke bombs do you have remaining?" "We have about 10 more rounds of explosive tags, 12 rounds of flash grenades and about 15 more rounds of smoke bombs," the ninja reported. Not much remains, the boy thought. Naruto turned to the leader of the long-range fighters and said, "Okay. Listen up. Our opponents are an army of berserkers. They know neither fear nor pain. They will be very difficult to deal with. In order to deal with them, we'll unleash all of our remaining ammunition on them. You and your men will use the remaining explosive tags to cause as much initial damage to the enemy. Next, you will unleash the flash bombs to hopefully stun them." He then faced the commander of the fighters in the close to medium range. The commander of the close-mid-range fighters nodded. "Once the enemy is stunned, you and your men will charge in with a full assault. When the effects of the flash bombs have worn off, the long-range fighters will cover your retreat with the use of smoke grenades." Naruto continued to turn to the commander of the Hyuga strike force. "The smoke grenade attack will be the signal for you to assault the enemy. When the smoke is cleared, the rest of us will support you to finish off the enemy." "Is that clear?" inquired Naruto. The captains responded, "Yes, young commander." Their young commander skillfully deployed the fighters, and they overcame a numerically superior force in an extremely unlikely victory. Now was not the time to question his orders. Their well-laid plans, however, were completely derailed. Naruto sensed evil intent and tremors in the atmosphere, which hinted at an impending enemy attack. "I thought all enemies were taken care of in the area," he thought. However, he was informed that it was too late by a loud crash and a flurry of cries and shouts before he could give the order to defend himself. When Gaara's strike struck the center of Naruto's army, nearly 200 shinobi were instantly buried. As he readied himself to crush his victims within the sea of sand, Gaara exclaimed, "More, more!" Nevertheless, the sand rose to his defense to stop an attack before he could finish the second part of his jutsu. It was his prey, Naruto, with Kimimaro and Sasuke. There was no obvious winner in the fierce battle between the fighters, and Sasuke impressed Kimimaro. So far, the boy had avoided all of his blows. As Kimimaro put it, "Your eyes are good, so let's take this up a notch." Sasuke responded with a humph and dropped back into a defensive position. Having fought for nearly the entire day, he was exhausted. As he launched a lethal and disorganized barrage of blows at the young Uchiha, the Kagaya yelled, "I shall force you to draw out that power inside you. Dance of the Camellia." Kimimaro thought to himself, even this isn't working on the kid," as the young Uchiha deftly sidestepped all of his blows. But when the dance ended and Sasuke launched a counterattack, he was taken by surprise. Kimimaro exclaimed, a little taken aback, "What? A fire attack from point-blank range? Kaiten. Gukakyu no Jutsu." The Sasuke exclaimed as he attacked his opponent with his jutsu at point-blank range. The enemy was sent reeling backwards in a fiery heap by the massive, blazing ball of fire. He thought to himself, that should have killed him, as he finished off the enemy with all of his remaining chakra. But the boy's eyes lit up with shock when he saw his opponent rise again after the blow. He exclaimed in obvious shock, "What? Very impressive counter. Offensive," Kimimaro exclaimed as he emerged from the fire, his whole body encased in a layer of skeletal armor. "I would not have survived if I had not used my bone defense. Yoroi no Hon. You deserve Orochimaru." Sama's time and consideration, Kimimaro stated, gradually lifting his hand. A little after Kimimaro. "Men, the signal is up. It's time to blow Konoha up," said a sound shinobi. After taking the lethal medication one by one, their bodies changed quickly. Their humanity was lost along with their fear and pain, and their muscles grew larger and stronger. This was the price they had to pay for their newfound power. The army as a whole then charged forward, destroying Konoha with an unnatural roar. "This pitiful village will soon be destroyed," Kimimaro remarked, peering over his shoulder as he sensed the movement of his army. "Hello, Sasuke. Your talents and opportunity to exact revenge on your family are being thrown away. Your future and your retribution lie beyond this location. You can have the power you want thanks to Lord Orochimaru. You can exact your revenge on him. We're waiting for you to arrive." He then vanished into the woods. Soon after the shinobi vanished, Sasuke felt the ground beneath his feet tremble, a warning of danger ahead. Then he heard his sensei's voice. "Sasuke, you should withdraw now." Kakashi had no time to inquire about the fight between his student and the enigmatic pale ninja, but he did say, "Tsuko and Sakura are okay. We have to gather with the other men to defend the village." The Jonin couldn't get rid of the uneasy feeling that Sasuke was somehow involved in something bigger than himself. The boy answered, "Hi sensei," and Kakashi gave him a soldier pill as they hurried to catch up with the other defenders. Without saying anything, Sasuke accepted the pill from his mentor and swallowed it, the bitter taste nearly immediately being wiped out by the surge of chakra and energy to his system. "Here, take this. You're out of chakra and the upcoming battle is going to be very intense." Alongside Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Sarutobi, "Jiraiya, give me some oil," exclaimed Sarutobi. Jiraiya said, "Yes sensei," while getting ready for his jutsu. "Ninpo. Gamayuden, toad oil bullet," he yelled, hurling a sizable ball of oil in the direction of his old comrade. Sarutobi uttered the words, "Kaden. Karyu Enden," as he simultaneously used his oil and fire jutsu to launch his own. The end result was an oil-fueled fire that was raging fiercely and directly toward Orochimaru. With his hands clenched, Orochimaru readied a summoning technique, Kacheose, Rashomon, summoning a massive gate resembling a demon to stop his erstwhile master and Ali's destructive combo attack. "Now's my chance to call forth the Edo Tensei," he thought. Orochimaru remained on the defensive the entire time. Sarutobi and Jiraiya's combined attacks prevented him from going on the attack. Jiraiya had no such plans. In reality, the Snake Sannin was searching for a way to release the Edo Tensei and get away from the conflict. Jiraiya was at Orochimaru's side, preparing another technique, before he could even summon his finest move. Ninpo. Ranjashigami no Jutsu, Wild Lion's main technique. Jiraiya uttered while hurling a substantial bundle of his hair, reinforced by chakra, in the shape of a lion, towards his adversary. As the technique consumed him whole, Orochimaru exclaimed, "Shit! I can't escape the attack." "Die, my old friend," Jiraiya exclaimed, crushing his friend with his hair. It was a moment of bittersweet memories for the Sandaime and Jiraiya. Dealing with their student and comrade was necessary. Many innocent lives were lost as a result of his heinous actions. Sandaime inquired, "Did you get him?" "Yes, sensei, we got him," the sad-looking smile said. That triumphant moment was short-lived, though, as they heard those dreaded words, Kacheose, Edo Tensei, in the background. That was the moment that Sarutobi and Jiraiya's worst fears materialized when 3 coffins emerged from the earth. Orochimaru mocked, "A shinobi must never drop their guard. My special body-shedding technique bought me enough time to turn the tide of this battle. All hope is gone for you in this pathetic village now. You bastard, you were able to complete the jutsu," Jiraiya said. "Kukuku. Yes, and it is my masterpiece. Do you know who I am going to revive?" "Orochimaru, don't do it," exclaimed Sarutobi. The Hubei Sannin would want to bring back the former Hokage in order to destroy the village that they fought and died to create and defend, and the Sandaime knew this because of the kind of person Orochimaru was. No, the Sandaime was correct. Orochimaru opened the coffin lid and said, "First, let me introduce you to your first Hokage." "Gosh, we're really in trouble now," Jiraiya exclaimed. Orochimaru said, grinning evilly, "Next is the second Hokage." The coffin did not open, and finally the fourth Hokage did. He exclaimed, What's this?" with annoyance. Sarutobi explained, "It's because the soul of the fourth isn't in the pure world. The Edo Tensei can only revive souls that reside in the pure world. The fourth's soul isn't there, Baka," Jiraiya said. Jiraiya remarked, "In any case, our problems have quadrupled," as Orochimaru implanted the unique kunai into the 2 resurrected cages. Orochimaru grimaced and exclaimed, "Yes, they have Jiraiya and your problems will kill you, Kukuku." Tobirama remarked, "It's been a long time since I've seen you, monkey." Hashirama remarked, "You've gotten older, haven't you, Sarutobi?" Hashirama sensei, Tobirama sensei, I never would have thought that I would meet you two under such circumstances, Sarutobi said. He was aware that the time was now. He was not going to survive this battle in any way. "Please get ready to lose," he exclaimed with assurance. Tobirama said, "This brat completed the Edo Tensei." Orochimaru commanded, "Kukuku. Yes, and now you will do my bidding, kill Sarutobi." "We are sorry, Saru-kun, but we have no choice but to fight you," Hashirama said. "You aren't going to kill my sensei just like that Shodem. Sama, Nidaime. Sama." Jiraiya spoke up. Tobirama questioned, "Who is this pup talking to us like this?" "He is not only my pupil but also the one who called you," Sarutobi answered. "The Edo Tensei was never meant to be used against comrades," Tobirama said. He is no longer a member of the Leaf Village. He lost his way and became engulfed in the darkness, the third Hokage said. Orochimaru commanded, enough of the chit-chat, go kill them both. Jiraiya.kun, Orochimaru is weak now, the caster of the Edo. Tensai needs to concentrate in order to control the summoned fighters. Go deal with him, and let the cage battle with each other, Sarutobi-sensei said. You sure, sensei? Just go. Okay, Jiraiya exclaimed, advancing to take aim at Orochimaru. Let's begin. Kaden Karyu Enden, shouted Sandame, hurling a flaming fire dragon in the direction of his former sensei. The Nidame retaliated with a defensive wall of water to shield his summoner from the onslaught of flames, exclaiming, Sweden. Sujin Heki. Having successfully repelled the fire attack, Nidame used his own jutsu to launch a counterattack using the same water that he had used to build the water wall. Sweden Sweryuden, he exclaimed, watching as the surrounding water transformed into a roaring dragon that charged his pupil. Sarutobi took his turn defending now. He exclaimed, Doden. Doryu Heki, as he built a substantial earthen wall to defend himself from the water attack. He felt a shiver go down his spine upon hearing the next jutsu being hurled towards him. Mokotan. Jukai Koden. Trees sprouted beneath Sarutobi's feet. At first slowly, but before he knew it, a small forest of trees had engulfed him. In his mind, Sandame said, I can't win like this. Kachiyose no Jutsu was the last words spoken by the Sandame, summoning the Monkey King Enma to assist him in his last, desperate fight. Pathetic Sarutobi, this is the result of the mistake you made all those years ago. You should have killed him when you had the chance. I know Enma, but now is not the time for that. Transform into Kongu Nyoi. Yes, the third Hokage's personal summon stated, transforming into a long bow, staff. Let's go Enma. Hi. Not too far away in the barrier, a duel between former allies was in progress while Cage were fighting fiercely. There was no obvious winner in the serious taijutsu match between Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Jiraiya's strong and quick attacks were expertly matched by Orochimaru's incredible snake flexibility. Seneashu! Exclaimed Orochimaru, hurling a swarm of snakes from his arms in the direction of his fellow Sannin. Hari Jizo, Jiraiya replied, his hair growing rapidly and enveloping him in a robust shield of hair reinforced by chakras. Jiraiya launched his counterattack from under the shielding mane. Doden. Yomi Numa caused the ground surrounding Orochimaru to turn into mud that was heavily sticky and infused with chakra, severely impairing Sannin's ability to move. Orochimaru found herself stuck. Kawarimi would be of no use to him because he was still recovering from the specialized body escape technique that only moments before had saved him from certain death. This time, his former teammate outwitted him because she was well aware of his fighting style. It's still very difficult even though I have the advantage, fighting my stupid ex teammate while controlling the Edo. Tensai is asking a bit much even for me. It seems that retreat is still the only option because I cannot lose here. Orochimaru thought to himself. Kukuku. You got me, for once. You've actually improved Jiraiya. Baka, Orochimaru said. He came to the conclusion that in order to get out of the death trap he was in, he needed to wait for some time to replenish his energy. He anticipated that Jiraiya would want to talk to him about the situation because he knew his teammates still valued their close friendship from before, and this would buy him some time to decide what to do next. He was not in error. Jiraiya yelled, Orochimaru, stop this madness, release the Edo, Tensai. Why should I? This village is weak and pathetic. It needs to be destroyed. No, Orochimaru. The village is not weak, it's you who are not strong. You dare call me weak? I am Orochimaru, one of the 3 legendary Sannin and the only other user of the Edo Tensai in the entire world. How can I ever be considered weak? You're weak because you ran away from your village crying like a spoiled brat when you didn't get what you want. You kidnapped and tortured those who were innocent and weaker than you for your gruesome experiments in your quest for immortality. You are weak because you are afraid to die, Orochimaru. Jiraiya. Death is for the weak who willingly succumb to the laws of nature, of birth and death. But just like human laws, nature's laws can be bent and broken as well. The Edo Tensai proves this. Sarutobi-sensei is struggling against my 2 summons because his is old and weak. I am going to become immortal and rule this world. I will become a god and lay waste to all who deny me. You're a madman, Orochimaru. You do not belong in this world. Jiraiya exclaimed, Cage. Bunshin no Jutsu. While yelling out a shadow image of himself. In its hands, the Bunshin formed a large Rasengan. Orochimaru, this is the end of our friendship. I wish didn't have to end this way. When Orochimaru opened his mouth, a snake materialized and the renowned Kusanagi blade emerged from its jaws. Orochimaru pointed his blade at his former teacher and said, Jiraiya. Baka, you are still so naive. This is not my end. I cannot die. I am immortal. I cannot say the same for our sensei. He wouldn't see this attack coming since he is too preoccupied trying to preserve his fading life. He is going to die. No, Orochimaru, don't do it. As he let go of the Kusanagi, the Habi, Sannin remarked, Kukuku, I wish Tsunade was here to see her sensei die right before her eyes. It would have been a beautiful yet sad reunion. Jiraiya yelled, I'll kill you, as the original sprinted behind the blade to save his sensei and the clone charged in to kill Orochimaru. In the meantime, the Sandaime was feeling the effects of aging while kneeling in front of his sensei's Edo Tensei forms, breathing heavily. The Sandaime could not withstand the Shoden and Nidaime's combined furious attack on their own. Saru, you have become old. You can no longer keep up, Nidaime said, but as soon as he was done speaking, there was a loud explosion. The explosive tags were placed on the former leaders of the Leaf Village, but they were not noticed by them during the intense battle. For a split second, the explosion destroyed their lower bodies, rendering them completely defenseless. Sarutobi made a cage bunshin and said, I know that's why I am going to end this right now. The Nidaime exclaimed, explosive tags are not enough to stop the Edo Tensei. Why are you using the last of your chakra on a chakra-intensive technique like cage bunshin? Asked the Shoden. I needed the time to prepare my final jutsu. The Nidaime exclaimed, oh, you have plans for us, Saru. I hope it works, the Shoden uttered. The Sandaime declared boldly, yes, it will work. It will put an end to this madness once and for all. Fuin Jutsu. Shiki Fujin. Sandaime exclaimed as the death god appeared to be hovering over him. So this is what the Yondaime saw when he sealed the Kyuubi all those years ago. He turned to his bunshin and exclaimed, let's go end this, as they raced to catch the Edo Tensei before they could fully regenerate. The Sandaime was prepared to take the souls of the deceased Kage and seal them in the stomach of the death god, having managed to capture the two resurrected Kage before they could fully regenerate. This will save the village and put an end to the battle. But things did not go as planned because the long, shimmering Kusanagi blade pierced his chest right through his heart as he was about to perform the sealing. Jiraiya ran up to his cage and yelled, Sensei. Jiraiya's clone charged at the bound Orochimaru, growling, you bastard. All it said was, die, as it rammed the massive, destructive ball of chakra into his erstwhile comrade's chest. But before the clone could deliver the final blow, the captured Sannin's mouth produced another Orochimaru. As the clone smashed into the empty body of the riveted Orochimaru, Orochimaru exclaimed, Kukuku. Once again you fell for it. I was biding time to recover enough to use my escape jutsu. You lose. Lower the barrier. Our job is done here, Kukuku. The four sound shinobi surrounded their cage with a shield of protection as they departed, following their leader's orders. Sarutobi felt his strength rapidly ebbing away as he coughed up blood. Jiraiya could only utter, Sensei, don't move. It doesn't matter, Jiraiya-kun. I was going to die anyway. This jutsu seals the soul of the opponent, but the caster of the jutsu must give his soul as payment to the death god. This is the jutsu that your student used to save the village from the Kyuubi almost a decade ago. Speaking for both himself and his brother, the Shoden said, we are sorry to have caused you so much trouble, Sarutobi. You succeeded. You emerged as a powerful and deserving village leader, the Nidaime exclaimed. With a smile, Sarutobi exclaimed, thank you, Sensei. Shiki. Fujin, seal, he exclaimed, using the last of his remaining energy. The souls of the first and second Hokage could be successfully taken out and sealed by Sarutobi. Dispelling the clone, Sandaime collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, but his pupil grabbed hold of him. Jiraiya, my job as Hokage is done. Proceed with the plan, and support Naruto. He is the new leaf that sprouts and will illuminate and protect the village, I know it. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, passed away grinning. Despite the danger that lies ahead, he was confident that his village will stand. With Gaara and Naruto. Naruto exclaimed, Gaara, in a serious manner. Uzumaki. Exclaimed Gaara with delight. One of Naruto's guards arrived at his side. Tiger said, what are you going to do now, Commander? We have lost a significant portion of our men. The initial cadre of Naruto's fighters was nearly 1,200 strong. The battle against the sand forces claimed the lives of about 300 people. He used 1/5, 180, of the remaining 900 shinobi to aid the villagers in their fighting, and he now reports that he has lost roughly 200 shinobi, leaving him with only roughly 500 shinobi. His combat power was down to less than half. It was now infinitely harder to support Kakashi. Cat.San will assume overall control of the army. You and Swan.San will help coordinate the close mid-range fighters respectively. Bird.San will help coordinate the long-range fighters, the boy said. Send word to the fighters in the village to send any available shinobi to assist us in stopping the Auto Shinobi. What about the injured and dead? Use 1/10 of the remaining medics to help out the injured and the rest will go with you. His sword grip tightened slightly. Leave the dead. We have no time for that now, we can't let Kakashi's force fall, he commanded. Hi, Commander, exclaimed Anbu, the tiger mask wearer. The remainder of Konoha's forces swiftly moved past Uzumaki Naruto, who was in their way, in order to assist their allies. Words of encouragement poured in from the men and women of Naruto's army. One fighter exclaimed, "Take care, Commander." A mocking Akamichi exclaimed, "Don't be late because I am not leaving any leftovers for you." Yeah, Commander, hurry up and finish them off, otherwise there won't be any Auto Shinobi for you to kill when we're done with them, another said. Tamari and Kankuro exclaimed. They all love him, as the shinobi walked by, supporting their leader. Gaara just stood, expressionless. Naruto calmly said, pulling out his blades, "So we meet again, Gaara. I told you that next time we met, I would plunge my blade between your eyes." With a sly smile, Gaara said, "He, and I told you that I would kill you next time we met. Well then, let's see which of us is filled with hot air." Tamari and Kankuro, stay out of this if you want to live. They didn't need to hear that twice. Yes, Gaara. This battle will not last long, declared Kankuro. Tamari answered her brother, I don't know, Kankuro. There's something about Uzumaki that makes me believe that he might be able to do it. Really, you think so? Yes, let's just watch and see how things turn out. Okay, said Kankuro. In his haste to murder Naruto, Gaara launched a barrage of sand shuriken at his opponent. With ease, Naruto dodged the blows by moving quickly, then launched himself at Gaara, slashing her across the torso. Gaara's shield of sand easily withstood the attack and instantly struck back, pushing Naruto back and leaving him with a few cuts all over his body. Gaara teased, "Is this all you got?" he said, unleashing another technique. "It seems that you're the one who was filled with all the hot air." Suna Shigur. Sand drizzle, which resulted in Naruto being covered in a thick layer of sand. Naruto thought, this isn't good, I have to get away from this sea of sand. When Naruto felt the sand shifting beneath his feet, he moved quickly to avoid getting trapped in the sand. "Die Uzumaki!" exclaimed Gaara, unleashing a hail of sand on his rival. Gaara was attacking Naruto with sand from all directions, so he wasn't having a chance to rest. Despite the numerous cuts and bruises all over his body, he was still alive. "You're disappointing me, Uzumaki. What happened to your death threats and bravado?" As he released Kenbatsu no Shinjin, Naruto exclaimed, "I don't make idle threats, Gaara." Naruto approached Gaara immediately before he realized what was going on. The upward slash was barely stopped by his sand, and then the boy vanished to his side with another horizontal slash. Though it was not entirely successful, the second attack was also thwarted. Then came the downward slash, and the last back stab almost at the same moment. Although every attack was successfully repelled, Naruto learned important facts about Gaara's sand as a result. He's getting closer to me, just like that taijutsu brat, Gaara thought. Gaara was not surprised at all, nor were Tamari and Kankuro. He's almost as fast as the weird guy in the green jumpsuit who damaged Gaara, Tamari said. Kankuro was still trying to process what had happened. He's actually keeping up with Gaara. Your sand defense, although formidable, has a significant flaw. It cannot successfully defend against movement of a certain speed. After hearing, Renden, Suna Shigur, successive shots, sand drizzle, Naruto realized he had to avoid yet another fast, moving barrage of sand attacks. In order to beat his sand defense, I must move faster than his sand, Naruto thought. Naruto maneuvered himself out of another round of attacks from Gaara and landed in a position where his left leg was raised and his thighs were perpendicular to his body, with the rest of his leg at a 90-degree angle to his thigh. His sword was long and dangled loosely between his right foot and foot. With his short sword held parallel to his raised left thigh, his left shoulder gestured toward Gaara. Gaara sneered, "Those weird poses won't help you, Uzumaki." All Naruto could say was, "Gaara, defend yourself." It was, "Come, Uzumaki, come," in response. When Naruto finally arrived, Gaara and his siblings were completely unprepared for the attack's speed and power. Naruto threw his weight forward and stamped his feet on the ground, exclaiming, "Unari no Raijin." Thunder God's roar. His body weight created momentum as it fell forward, and when he stamped the ground, he concentrated nearly all of his energy into that one tiny spot, which significantly increased the momentum his falling body had already created. As a result, there was a sudden and tremendous acceleration that Gaara's sand was unable to match. Naruto skillfully raised his long sword above his head to deliver a downward slash as he fell forward. All he had to do was steer the blade to its intended target, as his rapid pace would make it effortless for him to slice through both the boy and Gaara's sand. All Gaara saw was a burning sensation in his stomach and a white light that filled his vision. At one point, Temari and Kankuro only saw Naruto. A moment later, they witnessed Gaara being hurled across the clearing and Naruto standing where Gaara had been. In the move, Unari no Raijin, a piercing stab came almost immediately after a slash. Thunder is always close by when there is lightning. Naruto exclaimed, breathing a little laboriously, "You survived both of my attacks. That defense of yours sure is sturdy." He was slowly starting to feel the effects of constant combat. Gazing at the gash across his chest and the blood oozing from his stomach, Gaara lay on the ground in total disbelief. The Sand Shinobi, who was not used to being hurt, was surprised to see the red liquid gushing out of his body. He was barely spared death by the armor of sand surrounding his whole body. Temari exclaimed, "My god!" Gaara got hit twice in one attack, with complete shock. A slash and a stab in one move. At such a speed, Gaara had no hope of defending against that. As he staggered to his feet, Gaara muttered, "So this is what physical pain feels like. How are you so strong, Uzumaki? You do not have the same eyes as me or the Uchiha. I don't fight for myself or for revenge. I fight to protect the village and the one I love." Fighting to protect, not for revenge, for love? Then he recollected their first encounter and the applause Naruto got from every one of his men as they wished him luck in the fight. "Seeing you standing before me, a man who is just as bloodthirsty as me yet still loved by his people, you are a contradiction and a lie. I hate you, Uzumaki," Gaara exclaimed as he started to change into an even more hideous form. "All your men love you, while my entire village hates me." Speaking to himself in his cocoon, Gaara exclaimed, "Mother, this is a strong one and I hate him very much. He makes my blood boil." Temari thought to Kankuro, "He's going to transform," simultaneously. He started to wrap himself in a sand cocoon and exclaimed, "Okay mom, you will have his blood. You will taste the sweet blood of the opponent strong enough to wound me." Gaara was completely exposed, but Naruto was aware that his wounds and the speed at which he was moving would prevent him from taking advantage of Gaara's vulnerability because the sand would be able to withstand his blows. But Naruto noticed that Kankuro and Temari became a little tense. Whatever Gaara was up to was extremely risky, and it didn't take long for him to transform into his half-man, half-tanuki form. Gaara yelled, "Die Uzumaki!" as his clawed hands shot out at Naruto, who managed to avoid the strong, straight blow that completely destroyed the big tree in front of him. "You gave up your defense to transform into a powerful, yet slower form to fight against a nimble opponent?" Naruto asked quizzically. Naruto wondered, "I wonder if he means to transform into the Ichibi?" Jiraiya had notified all the commanders that the sand had moved the Ichibi container to the finals and that they needed to start making the necessary arrangements. Naruto was therefore aware of Gaara's condition. But with so many deadly threats directed towards the village, they were unable to commit a specialized force to deal with Gaara. It would be game over for Konoha if any of those threats could reach the village. They had to take equal action against each threat and hold out hope. The boy hurried after Gaara, thinking, time to kill him before he can fully transform. Gaara was no match for Naruto speed-wise in his semi-transformed state, but it was very difficult to hurt him because of his significantly higher defense. The only way to breach such a strong defense would be with piercing attacks, but Gaara wasn't allowing him the space or time to build up the force required. Gaara picked things up fast. "Stay still, Uzumaki. Are you a coward?" Naruto answered, "No, I'm not. I'm just a smarter fighter than you." Growing enraged at his incapacity to hurt Naruto, Gaara started to further change into the Ichibi. Too late now, he's going to change fully the more he got angry. Naruto was stuck. The more he battled, the angrier Gaara became and the more the Sand Shinobi changed into the Ichibi. As Gaara's attacks grew more powerful, swift, and long, range, Naruto found it more and more difficult to dodge them. Naruto released another Kenbatsu no Shijin after narrowly avoiding yet another nearly failed attack. Gaara was sent hurtling across the field once more by the last, piercing stab. Additionally, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Furious, Gaara roared, "Enough of this shit. I am going to destroy this entire place," and completed the transformation. In front of them was the Ichibi in its entirety. "Shit. Time to get out of here, Kankuro." He went straight to the full transformation. Yes, which means he got really riled up at being dominated by Uzumaki. This is not going to end well at all. Naruto exclaimed, "So this is what it looks like, the Ichibi," as he peered at the hideous creature and attempted to come up with a plan to halt it. In the midst of his thoughts, Naruto sensed sand attempting to engulf his body. He moved quickly to avoid the death trap. Naruto dodged the attack and leapt to the top of the biggest tree in the vicinity, where he was able to get a good look at the size of the beast in front of him. Gazing upon his formidable foe, Gaara spoke. "Uzumaki, you are strong. You even forced me to use this final form. When I am done killing you, I will destroy your village and every single person in it. No one and nothing will be left standing. There will be nothing for you to protect or love," Gaara sneered. "I am not letting you get to my village even if it kills me," Naruto said. "It's time to use the Sho-Daiken. It is the only thing that will give me a chance of finishing him off. But my body is injured and getting weaker. This is a big risk, but I am not going to all him to reach the village no matter what." As his master had taught him, Naruto closed his eyes, calmed his thoughts, slowed his breathing, and started to flood his entire system with ki. Ki energy filled every square inch and every cell in his body. His senses sharpened and his power surged. This was it, his last blow. With wide eyes, Naruto repeated what he had said earlier. "Gaara, defend yourself," to which Gaara laughed hysterically. "Come Uzumaki, come," and Naruto arrived a second time. And this was the second time that the boy's attack had left Gaara and his siblings completely unprepared for its speed and power. The commander of Platoon 11 of Kakashi's army's long-range fighters questioned, "Damn it, are you the remnants of Platoons 12 and 10? One shinobi answered, "Yes we are." The man answered, "The beasts are too strong. Both of our platoon leaders were killed." "Forget that. All able-bodied men join with my platoon and send those unable to fight to the rear," he commanded. The commander of the 11th platoon said, "Your captains may have died, but you all must fight on. Merge and prepare to engage the enemy." They all shouted, "Hi," in response to the man's commands, and the 11th platoon started to form ranks. But the enemy soon laid siege to the recently formed unit. The unit leader exclaimed, "Incoming! Get ready for battle, men," as they readied themselves to face the enemy once more. All across Kakashi's army, similar scenes were unfolding as it battled to contain the formidable enemy. Perched atop a raised mound, Kakashi observed the intense combat unfolding in front of him. The savage howls of the berserkers blended with the resolute cries of his fellow Konoha shinobi as they steadfastly remained in their defensive positions. Scout number 1. "Commander, we're losing ground quickly, the army is about to collapse. The left and right flanks are almost completely wiped out. Let's recall some of the men moving to flank the enemy," he continued. Kakashi calmly replied, "No, we can't do that." Naruto said to let the force prepare for a flanking maneuver. The scout's emotions surfaced and he exclaimed, "Commander, enough of these damn strategies, we're about to all be killed. Our forces are on the brink, men are dying left and right, and we're barely holding on, damn it." Another scout arrived to report, and Kakashi calmly listened to his frantic subordinate. "Commander, the flanking force is in position and awaiting the signal." Just as the scout was wrapping up his report, there were several loud explosions that shook the whole area, signaling the arrival of their reinforcements. Kakashi exclaimed, "Good, everything has fallen into place perfectly. Take the injured to the back and everyone else follow me. We're about to pay back these animals for damage they did to our village," Kakashi said in cold hard tone. "We've endured this mess long enough." The once frenzied scout was only able to react numbly before he was completely taken aback by how swiftly the tide of battle turned. The men were now even more committed to protecting their village because morale had increased. As a result of Kakashi's army's relentless withdrawal, the enemy force that was invading was forced to move into the direct line of the two flanking forces, setting them up for a lethal flanking attack. It was almost payback time, and it was going to be rough. When the last of his youthful commander's force managed to assist their distraught comrades facing an apparently insurmountable foe, the tiger masked Anbu exclaimed, "Keep firing." Asking the commander of the long-range fighters, how many more rounds of explosive tags are left, was the tiger-masked Anbu. We have about 2 rounds of explosive tags and about 8 rounds of smoke grenades left, sir, replied the man. He turned to the scout, muttering, okay, not much left. Send word to the Hyuga strike force to prepare to attack it after the second wave of explosive kunai has been fired and that they'll have only 8 rounds of smoke cover, so they must make it count. Yes, sir, exclaimed the scout, then hurried off to alert the commander of the Hyuga strike force. Then he turned to issue more commands to a different scout. Let the Akamichi force prepare for their assault, as soon as the flare goes up they must hit the enemy everything they got. Tell them to leave nothing standing before them, he said in a firm voice. Hi! Exclaimed the scout. Then the leader pivoted to face a third scout. Tell the leader of the long-range fighters to soften up the enemy at their rear to make way for the Hyuga to attack from the back. The man replied, yes, sir, and hurried off to follow his instructions. The commander of the long-range fighters was keeping a close eye on the ongoing battle while waiting for orders from the vice commander. The scout showed up with his orders before he had to wait much longer. The vice commander said to soften up the back of the enemy formation for the Hyuga strike force attack. At last, men, it's time to take action. Let's prepare the enemy's rear flank for the Hyuga. The long-range fighter leader turned to face his group. Hi, Captain! They exclaimed in unison, their voices strong and determined. Under any circumstances, they would never abandon their allies. Just behind the front line fighters battling the animals, the commander of the long-range fighters started to advance toward the Berserker army. He was shouting orders as he made his way to the main force, closing in on the enemy's flank. Follow my lead. First wave, 45 degrees up tilt left. Second wave, 45 degrees up tilt right. His order was immediately followed by explosive kunai raining down on the enemy, dealing almost instantaneous damage. The enemy force's middle rear flank suffered significant damage in the second wave of the attack, while the first wave nearly completely destroyed the invading army's rear flank. This gave the frontline fighters the opportunity to take the lead for the first time. The berserkers in the center of the army moved to attack the Konoha Shinobi who were attacking them from the sides as the enemy closed in on their flanks. As a result of losing their core, the berserker forces at the front and opposing flanks were severely weakened. Kakashi's army felt the effects of those 2 attacks, which destabilized the entire berserk army. The captain of the Hyuga strike force was keeping a close eye on the action as the long-range fighters unleashed a barrage of explosive kunai on the enemy. He saw that the fighters had used up all of their explosive kunai and were turning around to throw smoke grenades. Okay men. The time to make the Hyuga proud is near. Vital points only, kill as quickly as possible. The men and women of the Hyuga squad shouted back, yes sir. The long-range fighter's leader gave further orders while completing a circle. We're not done yet. Time to provide cover for the Hyuga. Maintain the distance and angle with full-on assault on the rear flank. Under the cover of smoke, the Hyuga force was moving directly into the enemy right behind the long-range fighters. The reason this attack worked so well was that the berserker, who lacked a calming presence and leadership, was dispersed throughout the battlefield, making it easy prey for the Hyuga. The long-range fighters provided excellent cover for the Hyuga as they dealt severe damage to the enemy. Kakashi gave his men the order, keep pushing forward, drive the enemy back, the attack on us has lessened considerably. Congrats, Naruto. You've completely changed the course of this fight, Kakashi thought. Kakashi's men were no longer in danger of being destroyed due to the combined attack from all 3 directions. Actually, they were gaining ground on the opposition and steadily decreasing the number of hostiles, so the battle would soon be won. 3 coordinated attacks and a disjointed but formidable berserker army turned the tide of the battle in Konoha's advantage. In the meantime, Ibiki was atop Konoha's walls supervising the movement of troops to and from the various battlefields, accompanied by his rather obnoxious acquaintance Mayushi, when he noticed the Ichibi's large form appear in the distance. The Hyuga scout worriedly said, "Sir, you already know but Naruto is fighting the Ichibi alone. We need to send back up right away." Since it became known that Naruto had asked the Hyuga leader for permission to date Hinata and that request had been approved, the Hyuga clan has embraced Naruto into the clan. A clan steeped in such customs found the boy endearing due to his courteous and polite mannerisms. "Shit. We were able to deal with the snakes thanks to you, but now this. We haven't won the battle against Orochimaru's men and we've already incurred substantial loss to the berserker army. We don't have the manpower to deal with the Ichibi." Ibiki growled in anger. Hey kid, don't worry, Naruto won't let the Ichibi get anywhere close to the village, Mayushi said calmly. Is it correct that Naruto's men ran straight into the psychotic kid? Was that Gaara? Mayushi wondered, trying to make sense of the name Gaara. Don't play around, old man, this is not the time. Yes, it's Gaara of the Sand and he's the container of the Ichibi. You think Naruto by himself has a chance against that thing? Ibiki asked. Interesting. Naruto was beating him and forced the Gaara kid to transform. The kid was quite shocked actually. I doubt he was ever beaten that badly in his life before. This is still bad. Beating Gaara in his untransformed state is one thing, but in his full Ichibi form that's a totally different story. Ibiki replied. And how the hell do you know what happened in the battle and you haven't moved an inch? Mayushi stunned Ibiki with a firm voice. To your first question, yes. The story doesn't change, but his vision does. The ability to see things as they truly are is what separates the great fighters from the average ones. Mayushi said cryptically. Vision? What does that have to do with fighting the Ichibi? Ibiki asked. When you see things as they really are, then you lose all fear. When fear is absent, confidence deepens, and when confidence deepens, even in a seemingly hopeless situation, a way will be found. Mayushi continued. With a silly smile on his face, Mayushi responded, as for your second question about how I know what happened in the battle even though I haven't moved an inch. Sorry, that's a trade secret? Ibiki turned to the shinobi nearby and said, I don't have time for this, old man. Go and gather all remaining shinobi and prepare our defenses as best you could. Should the boy fail, we'll have to stop that thing no matter the cost. Mayushi said, appearing particularly unperturbed by all the chaos around him. This made Ibiki, who was usually stoic, very impatient. Yes, sir, they exclaimed, then vanished to fulfill their responsibilities. Keep your eyes peeled on the battle between Naruto and the Ichibi and let me know of everything that happens, he said, turning to a Hyuga scout who was nearby. The Hyuga answered, I'm already on it, sir. As the Hyuga watched the standoff, they noticed Naruto's form gradually breaking down. What the heck? The Hyuga exclaimed, sounding skeptical. Ibiki exclaimed, what is it? What happened? Naruto is disintegrating right before my eyes. I don't know what's happening, the man replied. Damn it! Ibiki exclaimed. Find out what the hell is going on. They were unaware that the Hyuga had been staring at an afterimage of Naruto the whole time. Alongside Naruto could feel his body coming to life as the ki surged through it, filling every inch of it from his base of the torso to every cell in his body. The boy recognized this feeling, though. It was the same one he had felt in the forest of death. A sense of being alive, connected, and secure in the world despite all the risks. Naruto's eyes widened as he watched the monster in front of him, at an apparently unfeasible situation. He perceived that everything was relative and sensed a connection to all living things. From the standpoint of man, this would be a hopeless situation due to the excessive power disparity. But if one were to view things from the viewpoint of the universe, they would discover that, in relation to the rest of the world, opponents of any size were inconsequential. We're all unimportant in the eyes of the universe. After realizing this, Naruto experienced a strong bond with his opponent. He felt as though there was no barrier separating him from Gaara and that an invisible line connected them. At this moment, the boy listened to the unspoken command of his body and whispered to himself, trusting completely in the natural power that came from trusting oneself. His body moved without his conscious consent, and he did not resist it. He was in a state of complete trust and naturalness. The trees, the animals, the rocks, everything that was in his path was passing him by in a blur, but for some reason, Naruto, or rather his body, knew exactly where everything was. As he got closer to the enormous beast, he could feel the strain the technique was putting on his fragile, young body. I have to persevere through everything. As he willingly threw his body at his opponent, Naruto thought. Before long, he was sprinting up one of the Ichibi's enormous legs, getting closer and closer to his goal, Gaara, even as the shielding sand tried to stop him. Naruto gave himself an extra push, launching himself away from the sand and toward Gaara, seeing the boy's expression turn to shock as he saw the tip of the katana pointing menacingly down towards him. Perish. With shock written all over his face, Naruto spoke to his opponent in a cold, hard tone. But Gaara's sand would soon stop him from attacking. Once more, this damned sand. As Naruto came across the incredibly irksome sand shield, he thought to himself. You can't stop me, I promise. I'll keep you away from my village. To the shocked boy in front of him, Naruto spoke. It was just another challenge to be conquered. A relatively thick layer of sand stood between success and failure, death and life, destruction or salvation. Unconsciously, Naruto started to channel his ki into his blade, which helped it become sharper and break through the unyielding wall of sand. Despite the fact that his strength was rapidly diminishing due to blood loss, which was clearly having an adverse effect on his body, and that his vision was becoming blurry, Naruto persisted in pushing himself. I have to stop him no matter what, and my ki will stop him if my blade can't, he pondered. The blade of pure ki wavered as Naruto's strength began to wane. Wielding ki using a medium was one thing, but wielding with one's body in less than ideal condition was quite another. Naruto started to extend his ki beyond his blades, but in doing so he increased the rate at which he was losing his remaining strength. Nah. Proceed. The ki reacted to the boy's self, will by getting closer and closer to its target. I have to stop him right now, the boy pondered in his head. A few seconds ago, Gaara was staring at the tiny dot that represented his opponent, waiting for the inevitable but ultimately pointless attack to come. He was sure of the result of this conflict and was merely toying with his opponent in the same way that a predator plays with its prey before consuming it, only this predator had lost sight of its prey. Where has he disappeared to? As Gaara watched Naruto gradually break apart in front of him, he wondered. He didn't have to wait long to receive his response because, before he realized what was going on, Ichibi's leg began to automatically defend itself with sand. How the heck? The last thing Gaara could think of before he looked up and saw Naruto's now uncomfortably familiar white blade approaching him, directly between his eyes, with its tip growing larger as it got closer to its target. Perish. It was a strange experience to look into the eyes of the person that was obviously out to kill you yet held no malice towards you. As the blade slowly tore through his sand defense, he could feel the weight of death approaching him, and with it, he reached a moment of clarity. Was the word Gaara heard in the cold hard tone of his opponent? He could see the determination in Naruto's face, a determination to stop him not matter the cost. However, what surprised him most was the complete lack of malice towards him. Strangely enough, Gaara could feel only relief. Ironically, the man who was trying to kill him was the man for whom he had the greatest appreciation, because he would set him free. Until now, every opponent who attempted to kill him had hate and malice in their eyes. Now, he looked into the eyes of a boy who had threatened him, stood up to him in battle, spilled his blood, and was on the verge of killing him. I shall be released from this hellhole known as life when that blade penetrates my skull. I will be free at last. Loneliness, sadness, and suffering will no longer accompany me, the youthful sand shinobi pondered. Upon realizing that he would no longer be alone and unloved, that he would no longer feel as though he had never existed, and that the deep, agonizing emptiness inside of him would cease to exist, Gaara smiled a genuine, gentle, and relieved smile that caught Naruto completely off guard. With that realization, his long-held and viciously guarded need for genuine love and affection would finally be put to rest. Years of pain and silent anguish would soon be over. What's going on here? Naruto thought, bewildered. Naruto felt his resolve waver as he noticed the drastically altered expression on his opponent's face as his ki slowly made its way towards the center of Gaara's head. His demeanor has entirely transformed. Naruto thought to himself, it appears like he wants to die. But then he heard a voice that was eerily familiar. Yes, Naruto-kun. Those are the eyes of a person who seeks relief from the pain called life. After all this time, why are you speaking with me now? The boy inquired. Because you need my counsel, young one. There is nothing to talk about. Before he reaches the village, he must pass away. However, doesn't it seem odd that someone who was so desperately thirsty before would be so happy to pass away? You would naturally want to know why. No, it could be a trap. Mayushi-kun taught you a little too well. Are you acquainted with my master? The boy questioned inquisitively. Aha. I taught your master how to use his authority. Really? Yes, and I will train you as well one day. But you must give the boy a chance at life. With a redoubled determination to stop his enemy, Naruto responded obstinately, I can't. The voice yelled, you're stubborn as well. Have you failed to recognize that before you were rescued from the terrible state of loneliness, he was you? The roles might have been swapped. What? You of all people ought to understand his suffering and be able to connect with him. The sole distinction between the two of you is that, while he did not find anyone to love and care about him, you did. The boy faltered in his mission to kill the enemy due to the opposing feelings of intuition and logic. Nah, he can't survive, I can't. As his blade gradually moved to the middle of Gaara's forehead, Naruto answered. The enigmatic voice calmly replied, very well, young one, do as you wish. Are you not furious? No, there's no cause for concern. I'm not going to make you decide something you don't want to. Well done. With his resolve to kill his opponent returning, Naruto answered. With his opponent's blade stopped by his sand, Gaara could see a strange white and menacing energy bearing down on the center of his head. His armor of sand could not withstand the concentrated piercing energy. Closing his eyes, Gaara accepted death. He was feeling every morsel of mortality, a mortality that no opponent he had ever faced could ever bestow upon him. At last, though his lifelong wish was about to be denied, he thought, the end is here, as he felt the energy breaking through his sand armor. The words of the strange voice continued to reverberate in Naruto's mind, even though he could feel the white energy of his katana searing into his opponent's forehead and that Gaara's armor of sand would soon be breached, signaling the end of this battle. He's just like you, he too knows the pain of loneliness. Against his better judgment, Naruto chose to spare his opponent's life. The boy gave up trying to stop his enemy, thinking, I hope you were right, whoever you are, as the white energy from his katana faded and only the clear blade remained. Suddenly, the penetrating energy from his opponent's sword vanished, and Gaara was jolted out of his moment of death. Looking up, their gazes met, and he felt the strength of Naruto's piercing gaze, knowing that his opponent was sparing him, though he had no idea why. I'm out. As he released the Biju transformation jutsu, Gaara thought, there's no need to fight anymore. The two young men fell to the waiting forest as the great beast's body started to break and crumble. Temari and Kankuro were shocked by what they had just seen. Gaara had just lost a fight. Two pairs of eyes locked on each other, one full of silent determination and the other full of surprise and doubt. Soon after, Temari and Kankuro arrived at their brother's side, ready to protect him. Naruto and Gaara could hardly move, let alone navigate the falling debris, but somehow they mustered the strength. Gaara, I once spared your life. Still keeping his guard up, Naruto said, I have broken my promise to you and I won't do so again. The next thing Gaara said startled his siblings. Why did you leave me alone? You had control over my life, and you gave it to me. Reserve. Kankuro and Temari pondered. I knew you wanted to die because you have the same sad, lonely eyes that I used to have. I had those eyes once, until my master and then someone else came to my rescue. A Jinchuriki's life is difficult and lonely. You are despised and detested for reasons that are not within your control. How are you aware of my suffering? Gaara inquired. Naruto candidly replied, only a Jinchuriki can know the pain and loneliness of a fellow Jinchuriki. He wasn't sure why he was so open with an enemy. Perhaps it was the first time he had met another Jinchuriki. You are also a Jinchuriki? With surprise evident in his tone of voice and expression on his face, Gaara asked. Yes, I hold the Kyuubi that was sealed in me by the fourth Hokage about 13 years ago. Gaara said in a cryptic way, I understand now, before focusing on his siblings. It's over, Temari and Kankuro, come with me home. Yes, Gaara, both of them replied. With great care, Kankuro put his brother's arm around his shoulder and they hurried out of sight. Soon after they left, Naruto was still on guard, waiting for a surprise attack. He swiftly swung his blade in a horizontal circle, threatening to cut someone, but his master Mayushi easily blocked the blow with his skillfully held blade between his thumb and index finger. Your body is so exhausted that you are unable to distinguish between friends and foes, the man said in an impartial manner. Master, as soon as Naruto recognized who it was, he said, Brat, you did great, you performed admirably. As he staggered to stay upright, Naruto uttered, I have to return to the village to finish the plan. The remainder of the plan will be executed, and the village is safe. For the first time in a long time, his master gently said, you need to rest now. Without voicing any objection, Naruto said, okay sensei, and then instantly fell into his master's arms. Though Naruto had vanquished Gaara, similar scenes of victory were unfolding throughout the village. Inside and outside the village, Konoha's enemies were being routed by her defenders. Few were aware of the Sandame's death at the hands of one of Konoha's most formidable adversaries, and soon, the cheers of triumph were replaced with a solemn silence. While staring at their leader's lifeless body, Jiraiya and a few other Konoha shinobi were still struggling to accept reality. There is still a lot of work to be done, so now is not the time to grieve, Jiraiya made a comment. A shinobi remarked, but Jiraiya, Sama the Sandame is dead. Sarutobi. Sensei may be gone, but the village still needs to be guarded. Within an hour, assemble all shinobi who are physically capable and have them report to the Hokage Monument's base. Jiraiya gave the order. Yes, sir. In response, the ninja set out in different directions to assemble their fellow shinobi. Kakashi. Dono. All of the berserkers had been vanquished, the scout exclaimed with joy. As the men and women congratulated one another on a valiant victory and for surviving such a difficult battle, a chorus of loud cheers could be heard throughout the battlefield. In the vicinity of Kakashi, an Anbu appeared as everyone was celebrating. Jiraiya Sama, Kakashi.san, has called a meeting for emergency plans at the foot of the Hokage Tower in precisely 1 hour. Every fit shinobi is expected to be present. The Anbu uttered those words before vanishing from view. Kakashi announced as he turned to face his applauding men. Now is not the time to celebrate. In an hour, all physically capable shinobi are to report to Jiraiya Sama at the foot of the Hokage Tower. After taking all injured patients to the infirmary, head straight to the tower. Kakashi gave the order to his men, who obeyed without hesitation. An hour later, the council members and every other physically fit shinobi in the village convened beneath the Hokage monument. What does this mean, Jiraiya? Kaharu inquired. Sarutobi is dead. We need to recover 10 to the wounded and begin the recovery efforts. Jiraiya answered, that's true, but not before we execute the plan. Sandame killed the plan, Danzo declared. It's Sandame. Sama to you. Are you okay with me pounding it into you, or are you losing respect for me? To the surprise of everyone in attendance, Jiraiya asked in a very serious tone. How dare you talk to me like that, brat? That was his mistake because it only infuriated the already enraged Sannin, to which Danzo replied with barely contained rage. After witnessing his master's death in front of him, Jiraiya was left to deal with obnoxious, power-hungry council members who bore no scars or signs of combat. Danzo, and the rest of the council, pay attention to me. Sarutobi Sensei gave me clear instructions to carry out the plan regardless of who you are or what position you hold. You cannot stop me, and I will not grant him his last wish. Before turning to face the shinobi who were present and heard all that was said and done, Jiraiya uttered these words. It occurred to Homura and Kimura, we've found our Godem Hokage. Danzo thought, what a stinking brat. Jiraiya was speaking to the present shinobi in the meantime. The Sandame died in battle fighting against the first and second Hokage that bastard Orochimaru summoned. The one with the Edo Tensai? Kakashi inquired. Yes, and given his condition, it was too much for him to handle on his own. The result was certain. All shinobi could do was bow their heads. Now what should we do? Kakashi inquired. As of right now, Konoha is weak, making us open to attacks by other countries. We have multiple shinobi teams working on a special mission right now that will make sure that Iwa, the biggest threat to our village right now, is kept at bay. The shinobi in attendance were then shown a large map that Jiraiya had taken out of a school. Now there are several important missions that need to be accomplished. The village and the Land of Fire must first be closed off to all foreigners. Teams will therefore be dispatched to our borders with the directive to treat any foreign presence with the utmost prejudice. Nobody travels in or out of our nation. Jiraiya pointed to a number of locations on the large map and said, next we need teams to patrol these areas. What makes teams necessary at these locations? Guy inquired. We need to make sure there are no obstacles in the way of the numerous special teams that are presently engaged in a crucial mission that began approximately a week prior to the invasion. Pointing to specific locations on the map, Jiraiya stated, they're diverting the river at these key points. They're going to the river and entering the Taki and Kusa territories? Rado inquired. Shikamaru's calculations and the Weather Division Shinobi's report indicated that it would take roughly 3 weeks for the bodies to arrive at their destinations. By the time the corpses arrive at these locations, they would be severely decomposed, causing a plague in the neighboring villages, Jiraiya replied. Iwa's main points of entry into the Land of Fire are Kusa and Taki. Iwa would find it difficult to march through the villages since AIM does not have good relations with any of them. Amegakure's topography would also make it very challenging for an army to advance through. Likewise, with Suna. Thus, we would be effectively obstructing their route to Konoha, which will buy us much needed recuperation time, declared Kakashi. Wow, that is so awesome. No matter how strong an army is, disease will always render it helpless, Guy answered. How are the residents of these villages doing? Asked a different Jonin. We will send doctors to assist the villagers once the plague strikes, fortifying our relations with these nations in the process. Iwa will have an even harder time getting a foothold and attacking us. Jiraiya answered, we already have teams assigned to that task. Asuma exclaimed, I'm amazed that 2 kids came up with this kind of strategy. It's frightening. Yes, Asuma, you are correct. We will now proceed with the mission briefing. Chunin and Senior Genin will handle patrols at the designated locations, while Anbu squads and Jonin teams will handle border patrols. Jiraiya said, The others will have to dispose of all the bodies of the Sand and Auto Shinobi at these spots in the river northeast of here. Use the Senior Academy students if necessary. What? A Shinobi remarked, that's too much, they're not prepared for something like this. No, this is not excessive. This is a war, and each person must contribute in some way to the village's survival. Within the next 2 days, every body must be in the river. I want all the Jonin to remain and council members to remain. Everyone else, you've got your orders. Yes, sir. With the exception of Jiraiya and the Jonin, all of the Shinobi spoke at once. All right, so you already know the situation. Squad leaders are needed for the next missions because we lost a few good men and women in the attack. Thus, let's decide who will be promoted to Chunin by speaking now. Speaking first, Kurenai said, I nominate Nara Shikamaru. He's a very clear choice for Chunin and he's already proved his worth to the village 1,000 times over. Not a single one of the other Jonin opposed her. Okay, the Nara kid gets a green vest. Kakashi. I overheard a few shinobi discussing your team and the Uchiha child. In combat, they performed admirably. I'm not sure about his leadership abilities. He's too temperamental, but he's a great fighter who can handle himself. He has definitely grown up a lot, so I think we can give him the benefit of the doubt. How do the other Jins feel? Jiraiya inquired. I've heard the other shinobi talking about the Uchiha as well, so maybe he can get the benefit of the doubt, Asuma responded. How about that Hyuga kid and that Tsuko kid? He seemed like a good fighter, questioned Jiraiya. Tsuko is a wonderful young man who has grown up. He became much more mature when Naruto played for our team. He will work harder and gain a lot of confidence from becoming Chunin. All I've seen of the Hyuga is his impressive fighting prowess, but he comes across as a little conceited. He could be given the benefit of the doubt, just like Sasuke, Kakashi replied. The kids have demonstrated good ability and are aware of the dire situation the village is currently in. I believe they will rise to the occasion despite the dire circumstances. Rado remarked, we should demonstrate our faith in the youth. Agreed, Guy replied. Another Jonin remarked, I have no doubt that they will rise to the occasion. The nearby Jonin nodded in agreement with Jiraiya. What are the opinions of the council members? Each of them nodded in agreement. Now that a consensus had been reached, it was not time to proceed. Okay then, we'll put our faith in the future. Naruto awoke in a completely dark room, slowly rising to his feet but without the excruciating pain he had experienced during the battle. Where am I at this moment? Naruto exclaimed. The same voice that had spoken to him during the battle answered, you are in your mind, young one. You again. Show yourself at least. Naruto had to crane his neck upwards to peer into a pair of yellow eyes that materialized before him as soon as he completed his request. You're very important, aha. The voice answered, your master told me the same thing when he first met me. What is your name? You are not ready to know my name as yet. You do not possess the understanding and training to know my name. Don't you seem arrogant? Dryly, Naruto answered. I'm merely stating a fact, young one. Why then do we meet now? I wanted to chat with you a bit before I allow you to meet your tenant. He's been waiting to speak to you for a while now. It's the Kyuubi, right? Yes, regrettably, he is a cunning individual who feeds off rage and hatred. Unfortunately for him, Mayushi-kun believed that you were capable of controlling your hate and rage, so the Kyuubi was unable to have any effect on you. It hurts me so much that he would want to talk to me? Don't be quick to judge him, even though he's an angry person who has saved your life numerous times. You two have a very significant connection. Your destiny is inextricably linked. How? Naruto inquired. It all revolves around a beast called the Jubi. The Jubi? A legendary creature that nearly obliterated humankind a century ago, the power of all 9 Biju combined. All the Biju are being gathered by a group of S-class shinobi who want to bring the Jubi back to life. They have 2 leaders. The real leader is Obito, a former teammate of Kakashi's who is from the Uchiha clan. The puppet leader, Pain, is skilled with the fabled Rinnegan Dujutsu. The voice said, Obito is collaborating with Uchiha Madara to bring the Jubi back to life. How can I believe what you are saying and how do you know this information? Having studied Konoha history, I replied that Uchiha Madara had long since died in battle against the first Hokage. My knowledge goes far beyond what a mortal can comprehend. To answer your first question, have my previous deeds indicated that I am reliable? The voice inquired. Which Naruto was unable to respond negatively to. To address your second inquiry, Madara is patiently waiting to return to the world of the living. He did not die. He uses Pain as a pawn and Obito as a pawn in order to achieve his ultimate power. The rabbit hole widens as Pain, the Rinnegan's wielder, discovers the Jubi's true nature, a fact that neither Madara nor Obito are aware of. If any one of these three men is successful in carrying out their schemes, it's a convoluted scheme of deception that will not end well for humanity. Because the Jubi's power is limitless, it cannot be restrained or managed. The goal of the Jubi was to aid in enslaving the world, not to destroy it. People believe, quite rightly, that it was intended to destroy the world because of its immense destructive power. It was said of the sage's fight against the Jubi that he did so in order to prevent the end of the world. To quell the threat that the Jubi was meant to unleash on this world, he nevertheless became the first Jinchuriki of the Jubi. "Why are you telling me everything?" Naruto inquired. "Because, regrettably, you are instrumental in putting an end to the Jubi and knowledge is power. All I can do is point you in the right direction and assist you in assembling the puzzle. You will learn more as your training goes on." The voice said, "Go talk to your furry little friend in the interim," before gradually fading away and exposing the Kyuubi's cage. "Hey, you filthy brat, it's finally time for us to meet. For a while, that annoying one prevented me from connecting to you," the Kyuubi remarked sternly. "Hello, furball. Who is that annoying person? Nice to meet you too. Are you acquainted with him?" Naruto answered sardonically. The Kyuubi shot back, "Yes, in fact, I do know of him, but I am not going to tell you one bit." "Why? Do you find him frightening? You tiny human, I'm the powerful Kyuubi, and I have no fear of anyone," the beast angrily answered. "Hey, you started the insults, not me. Hey, despite my dislike for you, I must say you're the most interesting Jinchuriki that I've had. You spilt a lot of blood with those hands of yours and I like it," the Kyuubi asked. Naruto remarked, "Humph, I did what I had to do to protect the village." "It doesn't matter, you still killed a lot of people and you were frighteningly good at it for a kid your age." Naruto responded with a grunt. Naruto said, "Well, at least can you tell me about the Jubi? You've got some nerve, human. You've all but ignored my existence, and then when you do finally meet you ask a lot questions. Well, I think I should know what I am up against. The Jubi's power cannot be fathomed, it's as simple as that. How can I defeat it? You can't. The best way to beat the Jubi is to no allow it to be revived, because if it is revived then it's all over for everyone, Biju included." "What do you mean by Biju included? Do they need the power of all the Biju to revive the Jubi?" The Kyuubi answered, "No, Biju's chakra is self-sustaining and self-regenerating, so only a little is needed to fully revive the Jubi, although it might take a while. So it's possible to revive the Jubi with only a fraction of the Biju's power." Before posing another query, Naruto murmured to himself, "Damn, that is not good. Why did you attack Konoha 16 years ago?" After asking that query, the Kyuubi fell silent. Did it have something to do with Uchiha Madara? The Kyuubi merely moaned. Naruto prodded him further, realizing that he was getting close to learning the truth about what actually happened 16 years ago. So it did have something to do with Uchiha Madara. It was common knowledge that the Uchiha and the Senju were the two strongest clans, and the people of the soon-to-be village wanted the leader of the Senju clan to be the leader. He had the capability to control the Biju with his Mokotan abilities, and I would guess that the Uchiha had some kind of Biju controlling abilities as well. They couldn't be the only clan able to rival the Senju if they did not have such ability. "So, am I right for believing all this time that the Madara was able to somehow summon you to attack and destroy the village?" Naruto asked. The Kyuubi turned to face Naruto, met his eyes with his own, and answered. "Kid, you are treading on some thin ice with dangerous information there." Naruto cried, "I was right then. I was trying to figure out what was the root of the attack that made my life a living hell. I wanted answers and I had to figure them out on my own, until now." The Kyuubi interrupted, saying, "It seemed to me that you were unconcerned with meeting, talking with, or knowing me. I always wanted to know, but that stuff doesn't define who I am. However, I couldn't risk contacting you back then. I was filled with too much anger and sorrow that you could have taken advantage of. So your master taught you how to control your emotions before you made contact with me. He was very wise to do that." Naruto responded, "Yes, the old fart knows his stuff. I need your help, Kyuubi." The Kyuubi questioned, "My help? Haven't I protected you enough? I've learnt that there are a bunch of S-class shinobi being led by a Uchiha and a wielder of the Rinnegan who are collecting the Biju." The Kyuubi's rage flared at the continual mention of the Uchiha name. "Cursed blood of the Uchiha. Nothing good ever comes from that clan. Indeed, it was the cursed Madara who summoned me during the battle that took place at what is now known as the Valley of the End. It was another Uchiha who summoned me in Konoha 16 years ago. The Uchiha are able to control the Biju with their cursed eye powers. That Sasuke kid has the same darkness in him. a darkness of betrayal and greed that all Uchiha are born with. Nothing good is going to come from him and he would soon betray the village, just as his kin have done in the past. You could kill him now and the rest of the Uchiha for that matter. The Kyuubi responded earnestly. Naruto answered, you have a deep hatred for the Uchiha. We Biju are not slaves or tools to be used at the whims of humans. Naruto became curious about the Biju after learning more about the Kyuubi. Can you tell me about the Rinnegan? I really want to know what I am up against. The Rinnegan is the most powerful Dujutsu and it belonged to the Sage of Six Paths who used its power to stop the Jubi many years ago. I know nothing more of it, the Kyuubi responded. He was lying, really, he knew a lot more, but he didn't feel like sharing it. I will ask Ero Daifu to get more information about Akatsuki and the Biju and I'll fill you in. Why would you do something like that? I'm not your friend and I don't care about you and vice versa. That may be the case, but the least I can do for you is to keep you informed because there are people out there pursuing us with bad intentions. The Kyuubi answered, no need for that, I can see and hear everything already. Are you able to? I am, of course. Kyuubi the great beast uttered those words in an arrogant tone. Hey. Naruto grinned and said, I forgot, just as he felt a light touch on his hand. The Kyuubi told the boy, it's time to head back, your woman is worried about you, and turned to walk away. Before his body started to wake up, Naruto said, thanks for the info, but the Kyuubi remained silent. Hey. The Kyuubi found the kid interesting. 5 days had passed since the battle between Konoha and the combined forces of Otto and Sand, and Naruto opened his eyes to see the white ceiling of Konoha's hospital. During that 5-day period, all of the fallen Konoha shinobi, including the Sandaime, had been buried. He felt another person's hands, warm and gentle, and he recognized the touch immediately. It was Hinata's hands. Hi Hinata. Haim, how are you doing? He questioned in a feeble tone. Naruto-kun. You're conscious. With a tight hug that hurt Naruto's body, Hinata blurted out and grabbed onto him as if it was her first time meeting him. Easy Hinata. Haim, I'm not 100% yet fit as yet. Releasing her hold, Hinata answered. She apologized to Naruto-kun, saying, I was so worried. Joyful tears streamed from her eyes. He kissed her forehead and said, I know Haim, sorry for making you worry. Naruto could feel the warmth of Hinata's soft lips on his, but their moment of unbridled bliss was cut short when the door flew open and Kiba and Akamaru burst in. Unable to control herself, Hinata raised her head and gave Naruto a long, loving kiss on the lips. Get a room, ye peeps, as Shino, Sakura, Ino, Shikamaru, and Kakashi trailed him in. Kiba uttered these words. This room is Teme. With a blushing Hinata buried in his chest, Naruto spoke. Hinata, that is the second time we have caught you acting like a bad girl. The other shinobi laughed even harder as Kiba joked, making the bashful girl blush even more. Hi Naruto. How are you, may I ask? Ino inquired. I'm fine. My body hurts all over but I'm fine. All Kakashi did was nod in Naruto's direction. Consider Sandaime. Gigi. Naruto inquired. The whole room fell silent as he asked his question, but before any of the shinobi in attendance could react, a well-known voice spoke up. The first and second Hokage killed the Sandaime during his battle with Orochimaru. It was Jiraiya who was buried while you were unconscious. To everyone's surprise, Naruto clenched his fist, closed his eyes, and smiled. Why is Naruto grinning? Curious, Shikamaru asked. Gigi passed away in a way befitting a kage, and I aspired to do the same one day. In response, Naruto shocked the room. Everyone in the room responded favorably to those words, which celebrated the Sandaime's life rather than lamenting his passing. The shinobi in attendance displayed determined smiles. Leave it to Naruto to say something that lifts everyone around him, thought Jiraiya. Kid, we still have work to do. Jiraiya told the boy. The village has an uphill task dealing with the damage and protecting the borders. Naruto addressed the group, saying, yes, I know. I need to speak to Jiraiya and Kakashi in private, please. Yes Naruto-kun. I will come by tomorrow after missions to visit you, Hinata said. All right, Haim, Naruto answered. Sakura and Ino said, Naruto, take care. Naruto. Baka, later, Kiba uttered. I quit, declared Shikamaru. All right, guys, thanks for coming. Before long, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Naruto were the only people left in the room. Naruto asked, please put up one of your privacy jutsu, Daifu. Naruto, this is very serious information. After learning of the boy's request for a privacy jutsu, Kakashi inquired. Yes, I spoke to the Kyuubi and someone else and I have some not.so. Good information for you all. Who is this other person? Jiraiya inquired. In an honest reply, Naruto said, not someone you will know, I barely know him myself. Can we believe the information provided by Kyuubi and this information? May I ask Kakashi? I think so. Even though some of what I was told seemed improbable, I never felt malicious or that they were trying to trick me during our conversations. Jiraiya ordered, tell us what you've been told. It's about the Jubi, Uchiha Madara and Akatsuki. Whoa, young one. Jiraiya heard 3 names that he knew would give him a headache, so he said, one at a time. Which one came first? Naruto inquired. Let's start with Akatsuki. I've heard some rumors through my spy network about an elite mercenary group composed solely of S-class criminals that was going around gathering the Biju. Uchiha Itachi is presently a member of the unidentified group, and Orochimaru was previously a member. Naruto added, well, they have 2 leaders, a puppet leader who wields the Rinnegan. What? The sage of 6 paths fabled Dujutsu? Jiraiya let out a loud cry. Yes, that's the one. This is not good, cried Kakashi. I taught that child. Jiraiya uttered in dismay. What? With a loud voice, Naruto spoke. My team discovered them in a megacure as orphans during the Second Shinobi War. Tsunade and I stopped Orochimaru from killing them. I stayed with them and gave them enough instruction to be self-sufficient. Nagato traveled everywhere with his 2 friends Konan and Yahiko, who helped him wield the Rinnegan. Well, you trained them a little too well, because now they are Biju hunters who are leading a band of highly dangerous criminals. I didn't train them to take this route, so this is bad news at an unfortunate moment. I'll have to let my spy network know so they can step up their inquiries. Naruto answered, you trained them, but Daifu, they also have free will. I guess the Jubi is related to Akatsuki in some way, said Jiraiya, simply nodding his head. The Jubi is the accumulated power of the 9 Biju, but there's a twist. A turn in this already vile story? Kakashi uttered. Yes, the Jubi was not meant to destroy this world, but to help enslave it. What does that mean to you? Calmly, Kakashi inquired. It is supposed to bring something into this world, but I was not told what that something is, at least not yet. The Kyuubi informed me that stopping the Jubi from being summoned is the only way to defeat it. For everyone, including the Biju. If it is called forth, then everything is lost. I believe that the power of the 9 Biju was the only way to summon the Jubi? Questioned Jiraiya. When I asked the Kyuubi the exact same question, she responded that although it might take some time, only a small amount of the Biju's chakra needs to be fully revived because it is self-sustaining and self-regenerating. Therefore, a small portion of the Biju's power can be used to bring the Jubi back to life. Kakashi retorted, this is not good. I also said the same thing, Naruto shot back. How is Uchiha Madara doing? Wondered Jiraiya. After pausing briefly, Naruto turned to face Kakashi and said, Uchiha Madara did not die during the battle at the Valley of the End. He somehow survived. Kakashi.san, this next revelation will not be nice. You go ahead, the Jonin said. Uchiha Obito was the one who unleashed the Kyuubi on Konoha 16 years ago, and he's working with Madara to control Akatsuki from the shadows. With wide eyes, Kakashi exclaimed, Obito is alive. How is this possible? I don't know, but he's working with Madara and it is not for a good cause. If everything you say is true, Naruto, then there are tough times ahead not just for Konoha but for everyone, Jiraiya said. But first, the Land of Fire needs to be protected. Has the plan's next phase been implemented? Naruto inquired. The teams are working as we speak. Patrols are protecting the squads as they do their job. So everything is proceeding as planned. Indeed. Now rest up, we're going to get Tsunade in 2 days, Jiraiya told the boy. Naruto gave a nod of approval. Big things were happening quickly and in large quantities. Teams of Konoha shinobi were meanwhile working on redirecting the rivers flowing into the countries from their current location on the outskirts of Taki and Kusa. 7 shinobi, led by Shikamaru, were arranged in a line along the bank of the river that ran from Konoha to Taki, with 3 on one side and 4 on the other. Doten. River manipulation, or Taiga Soju no Jutsu. The ninja declared as they altered the river's path. Different places along the river were staging similar scenes. Shikamaru said while observing his group at work. The battle has ended, but the war is about to begin. Troublesome. Just as expected, 2 weeks later, hundreds of terrified civilians began to flee into Iwa in search of safety as the badly decayed bodies began to flow into the countries of Kusa and Taki. These villages lacked the medical sophistication of Konoha and were unable to contain the plague. Iwa built earthen barriers to keep the plague from spreading throughout the land of rock and to shield its citizens from contracting it. As a result, Konoha was shielded by the same walls that defended Iwa. But still, teachings from a child and a farmer, Konoha's scheme was well underway. A plague swiftly spread throughout the Taki and Kusa regions due to the decaying corpses of the deceased Sand and Oto Shinobi flowing through the redirected river. Iwa used a potent military force to guard its borders in order to keep out waves of civilian refugees from the plague from reaching the land of rock. Other nations raised their weapons in response to Iwa's massive force deployment, fearing that Iwa would take advantage of the situation to attack other countries. As a result, the afflicted country's fear of an invasion by a rival nation replaced their fear of the plague, which led to increased tensions. There was one country, though, that was not on edge: the village of Hidden Sound. Seated on his chair in the darkness of the earth was a semi-satisfied Orochimaru. He got to test his new berserker army, kill his old mentor, and sow doubt in his precious young Uchiha, on the one hand. On the other hand, the Kyuubi, Brat and the Nara heir's unexpectedly clever plan prevented him from destroying the village. He was also interested in learning how his summons vanished so rapidly. As far as he knew, the Sandaime and Jiraiya, who were currently fighting him, were the only two individuals who could respond to the summons. His two most dependable subordinates entered his chambers as he was thinking back on the previous events. The Otokage exclaimed, eager to hear his two minions report right away. "We achieved 2 of our 3 objectives, Lord Orochimaru. We were able to successfully test the Berserker army, and I was able to successfully make contact with Sasuke, but we were unable to destroy Konoha," Kimimaro said. With eagerness, Orochimaru said, "Tell me about Sasuke. How has my vessel progressed?" "He is a very accomplished fighter and his Sharingan is almost fully developed. The young Uchiha was easily dispatching the Berserkers to protect his friends. He even forced me to use my bone armor against one of his attacks. He will make a suitable vessel for you, my lord." Orochimaru was quite happy. His prized vessel had become far more powerful than he had imagined, and it would take a very high degree of skill to make Kimimaro use his bone defense in combat. "Kukakukuku. Sannin, the snake," exclaimed. Good, and what of the Berserkers?" he asked. Kabuto took over this section of the report. The Berserkers were more or less a success. As expected, they were powerful, fast and held no fear. They easily overwhelmed the lower-ranked shinobi in 1-on-1 combat, but the Jonin-level shinobi held their own very well. However, overall, they were unable to deal with the highly organized and very well-coordinated Konoha shinobi. Without a leader, they were easily taken apart by the defending troops' pincer attack. "I was a bit surprised at how well coordinated the Konoha troops were in battle," commented Kabuto. "Yes. That map we got from Danzo was a dupe. Danzo is being used and he doesn't even know, so we must remain wary of the information we get from him. Our plans were almost entirely derailed because of those brats." Kimimaro questioned, "Should we kill the Nara and Uzumaki kids?" "If you get the chance, yes, you should. However, we have more important things to attend to, like who was the man who took out my summons so easily. They should have been more than enough to destroy the village." Based on the information, it was the Uzumaki's sensei who took out the summons, and he did it with relative ease as well, replied Kabuto. "How did such a powerful man live in Konoha for so long without being detected?" "I have no idea, but I'll find out," Kabuto remarked. "Yes, do that. It will be much more difficult to take on Konoha even if they're in a weakened state with such a powerful man around. If he had fully participated in the battle, things might not have gone the way they went. I will continue to do my research on how to improve the Berserker army, and you Kimimaro order the Sound 4 to pay a visit to Sasuke." "Yes, sir," Kimimaro answered. "Kabuto, have you made contact with the 2 remaining sleeper cells in the village?" Orochimaru asked. "Yes, they are ready and awaiting your orders." "Good, tell them to sit tight and try and gather more information. It was a wise decision to not activate all the sleeper cells in the village for the battle." "Yes, my lord," Kabuto said, bowing before he and Kimimaro left the room. "Are you ready for what's ahead, Uzumaki?" the sanguine snake Sannin posed to his invisible adversary. However, Oto was not the only nation hatching plans to destroy Konoha. In Iwa, one of the senior Cage Council members exclaimed, "Tsuchikage! Sama, you've got to see this." Following the outbreak's announcement and the deployment of a sizable force to stop the rapidly spreading disease from reaching Iwa, the Tsuchikage dispatched scouting teams to determine the initial cause of the disease's spread. At present, the advisors assigned to the Tsuchikage were closely examining a number of maps depicting the elemental nations, searching for discrepancies between the information the scouts were providing and what was depicted on the maps. The elderly Cage asked as he made his way over to the sizable table holding the map, "What did you find?" The man pointed to the locations on the maps and said, "According to the information that has been circulated, the river flows nearby these villages where the plague originated." He pointed to the two rivers and said, "However, when we look at the maps we see that the river that is carrying the bodies previously consisted of these two rivers." The Cage answered, "That means Konoha was able to connect the two rivers somehow." One of the Iwa council members questioned, how could they have done that while under attack from two countries at once? This was all planned. The reports state that the plan was set up by two kids, the Nara heir and some Uzumaki kid. What's more is that the Uzumaki kid was responsible for the deaths of almost 3,000 Suna shinobi. Kitsuchi, one of the top jonin of Iwa, said. A council member questioned incredulously, "What 3,000? Are serious Kitsuchi?" "Yes, he blew them all up and it looks like they dumped the bodies into the diverted rivers to stir up trouble in Kusa and Taki to prevent us from taking advantage of their vulnerable state. A couple of kids put together such an elaborate plan. This is hard to believe," the Cage said. "Tsuchikage Sama, believe it or not," Kitsuchi uttered. "But the fact remains that the plague is affecting our most direct entry points in the Land of Fire, Taki and Kusa, so they have effectively blocked us from attacking the village. We can go through AIM, but that will be very difficult given the presence of Salamander Hanzo. Suna may have been severely weakened by the defeat to Konoha, but they have the strong advantage of terrain. So even with a weakened army, if they stick to defensive tactics, it could take us months to clear a path through the Land of Wind into the Land of Fire. Plus it would be difficult to maintain a steady supply line through Suna territory, therefore it would be too risky to launch a campaign against Konoha at this time." Admittedly, what Konoha did was impressive. Even in a weakened state they were still able to effectively defend against direct attacks. "Yes, that may be true, but the Sandaime is dead and the village lacks leadership. If we push our way through AIM, we can force our way into Konoha. They won't have the manpower to repel us and they do not have the fourth Hokage anymore as well," another council member rightly argued. "That's too risky too," Kitsuchi answered. "AIM is close to Kusa as well as the river that is carrying the plague. Our army would be boxed in on all sides. Resistance from AIM, the threat of plague in Kusa, traversing the river that is carrying the plague, and Suna on our flanks. We're asking for trouble if we attack Konoha now. More important than attacking Konoha is protecting our country from spreading plague." Kitsuchi made some very perceptive and logical points. Like all other Iwa shinobi, he detested Konoha, but he was also realistic. Another council member questioned, "What is your decision, Tsuchikage Sama?" The Tsuchikage was to render a final decision regarding what course of action Iwa should take. The seasoned Cage took a long, hard look at the map before he spoke. "Kitsuchi is correct. If we go through AIM, we'll lose a lot of shinobi and that would be to Konoha's advantage. We've too much to deal with in the form of the plague, and we can't wage war if our country is being overrun by disease. Also, there is no doubt that AIM would have strengthened their defenses as well, so attacking them would do more harm than good right now. As much as it pains me, Konoha has successfully defended against us. However, there is a deeper concern to deal with." Kitsuchi inquired, "What is it, Tsuchikage Sama?" The Cage answered, "Princess Tsunade. Why is she as important? She's a wandering gambler that seems to want to have nothing to do with the village," a council members asked. The Cage answered back, "With the Sandaime dead, Konoha will be looking for a new Hokage. Currently, they have 3 strong candidates who can realistically hold the position of Cage, and they are Jiraiya and Tsunade of the legendary Sannin as well as the Warhawk Danzo. Jiraiya is not the type to take up the position of Cage as he is a wandering spirit by nature, and the council will be unwilling to let Danzo take reins of leadership because of his penchant for war. Therefore, the next best person would be Tsunade. The ideal situation for us would be to eliminate both Jiraiya and Tsunade, but it would be almost impossible to find him. Tsunade on the other hand is much easier to find by comparison. Just search all the gambling dens in the Land of Fire. If they are able to get her to return to Konoha, they could realistically use her medical knowledge and skills to control the plague and even use it against us. She's by far the best medical ninja in the world today, and her status as one of the 3 legendary Sannin would boost Konoha's military power considerably. Tsunade must be eliminated somehow. She must not return to Konoha. Even if we can't attack Konoha directly, we'll ensure that they do not recover from this battle anytime soon," the Tsuchikage said. A council member remarked, "Yes, but it will be difficult to track her down and even more so to actually kill her. She's a Sannin for a reason, you know. Plus, if we attack her in Fire Country territory, it might inadvertently cause her to join Konoha and also start a war between us and them. As you said, Tsuchikage. Sama, if she returns to Konoha, we could be in a tough position." "What you said is very true, that's why we're going to use assassins." The old Kage turned to Kitsuchi and said, "Assemble several teams of assassins and they are to track down Tsunade and kill her. Tell them to wear her down, don't give her time to rest or recover, and when finally drops her guard, eliminate her. Also ensure that those actions cannot be traced back to Iwa. Also, while we're disposing of Tsunade, tighten our defenses at the borders of Taki and Kusa. Kill anyone who tries to enter our country. We have no choice but to try and ride out the plague," the old Kage said. They all exclaimed, "Hi Tsuchikage! Sama!" as they began executing their leader's orders. In Kumo, the Raikage stood looking out the window of the tower that overlooked his village high in the Kumo Mountains. Not too far away, there was a heated argument among his war council's senior advisors about whether Kumo ought to attack Konoha at this point given how vulnerable it is. The Raikage of his war council, peering out the window at the end of the room and looking out at his village, asked, "What news of the battle do we have?" Based on the information that has been circulating, Konoha was attacked by the combined forces of Suna and Oto during the Chunin examinations and they successfully repelled the combined attack. However, the Sandaime died in battle against his former student Orochimaru. They are currently looking for a new leader. As expected, Konoha is not a weak nation. It would seem that their fighting power did not decline with the peace-loving Sandaime in charge, commented the Raikage. Another council member agreed with his Kage, saying, "Yes, it was a bit surprising that they did so well in such a disadvantageous situation, given the now deceased Sandaime penchant for peace. Our report says that the whole battle was orchestrated by the Nara heir and some Uzumaki kid," a Jonin said. Curious, the Raikage questioned, "Kids orchestrated the battle plan?" "Yes, based on the information we were able to gather. The Uzumaki kid was the commander of one of Konoha's armies during the battle and the Nara kid was heavily involved in the development of the strategy. Also, it was heard amongst the shinobi populace that the Uchiha kid did extremely well in the battle, saving many shinobi in the process," the council member Numi said. "Those kids must be exceptional to come up with such a plan and play such important roles in a major battle like that. I am sure they had something to do with the plague that is currently gripping Kusa and Taki, which are key transition points for Iwa into the Land of Fire. Konoha's got some talent there," the Raikage commented. "We should act quickly and strike them before they are able to recover. They are low on manpower and we could eliminate those kids while we are it. We have a clear path to Konoha that is totally unaffected by the plague," council member Numi replied. "Yes, now would be a good time to attack, but we must also consider that they are coming of an unlikely victory, so while their fighting force may be small, their morale will be sky high and this will make them difficult to deal with. Also, if what Raikage Sama is implying is true, then it would be folly to think that they wouldn't anticipate an attack coming from us." She, one of the Raikage's most trusted shinobi, said. "You are right, She. I'm sure they'd be ready for an attack from us, but just because you can see something coming doesn't mean you have to stop it," the Raikage said, turning to face his council. "However, Raikage Sama," she urged. "Konoha blew up almost 3,000 Suna shinobi. Almost the entire village was covered in blood and guts. They could easily plan to do much the same to us. I would advise caution, sir." Looking away from his subordinate, the Raikage turned to face the other council members. "How long would it take to prepare our forces? With the required rations and weapons, we could form at least one battalion in about 1 month," a council member named Jun retorted. "Before we can gather the remainder of our forces to march on Konoha, it will take another 2 months or so." Then, before addressing the council, the robust Kage turned to face Shi. "All right. Get the 1st Battalion ready to open a route into Konoha. This time, we won't let Konoha off the hook," the powerful Kage declared. It was time to attack because Konoha lacked both leadership and manpower. We are not going to let them get back to normal. "Yes, Raikage Sama," they all answered together. Kumo was getting ready to fight, but they were not alone in getting ready for war. Konoha was also getting ready for its next crisis. As with the military code of Konoha, lower-ranking military members were not permitted to attend such meetings. However, since the 2 young boys were instrumental in organizing Konoha's incredible victory over the Oto and Sand villages, they were permitted to attend as special members. Jiraiya, Naruto, and Shikamaru were also present, along with the entire Jonin and clan heads that were available. Even though Shikamaru and Naruto were lower on the military hierarchy, their contributions were valued almost equally with those of the people in the room. Everyone was aware of Naruto's victory over the Ichibi, and his army's men and women could not stop singing praises of how well he led the army against a much more formidable foe. Some members were shocked and even a little afraid of him after hearing his impassioned prayer to Lord Byako, the god of war, while doused in blood and guts, leading some to refer to him as Shonen no Senka, child of war. Similarly, Shikamaru was responsible for many of the pivotal strategies that helped Konoha win. While he may not have been as combative as Naruto, he was nonetheless calm and decisive. Kaharu was in charge of the council meeting at the moment. As you already know, Sandame Sama fell in battle defending the village and we are looking for a suitable replacement, she said to Somber Room. We, the council members, have come to a decision as to who will be the Godem Hokage, and we've chosen you Jiraiya as Konoha's next Kage. The renowned misbehaving Sannin was expected to decline the offer by many of the shinobi in attendance, but they were in for a bit of a surprise when all eyes turned to Jiraiya, who stood at the front of the room. To everyone's amazement, Jiraiya said, I accept the position on one condition. To be honest, with Jiraiya's penchant for roaming freely throughout the elemental nations, chasing women, and penning his naughty novels, many council members weren't expecting him to take the job. What state is Jiraiya in? Kaharu inquired with curiosity. Jiraiya pointed to Naruto and said, the kid and I are going to bring Tsunade back to the village. The council accepts your condition, and that would be very beneficial to the village, Homura remarked. Are there any objections from the present Jonin and clan heads? Nobody gave a negative response. It would be wonderful news if Tsunade returned to the village, Kurenai spoke. Yes, that would certainly boost our morale and serve as a warning to the other villages as well, Guy said. Not only that, but her presence will help us prepare for a potential further crisis much worse than the one we've just experienced, Jiraiya said. What emergency? Curious, Homura asked. Another war and a group of S-class criminals called Akatsuki, Jiraiya said. I need to get Tsunade back to the village because we'll need her. We need more information about this impending war, Jiraiya and this group of criminals, Danzo said. We are unsure of the exact reason behind the Biju collection by Akatsuki, a group of S-class criminals. In the not-too-distant future, Kumo will also attack us, Jiraiya added. How are you aware that Kumo will launch an attack? News about the battle just broke, inquired a Jonin. It's your turn now, brats, Jiraiya said, turning to face Naruto and Shikamaru. As he advanced, Naruto remarked, right people, right timing, right location. Again, the right people, location, and timing? Asked Rado, the same Jonin who had questioned Naruto prior to Suna and Otto's major invasion. We've come off of a big battle with Suna and Otto, so we're low on military strength right now. That's the right timing. They have only 2 minor villages to traverse to get to Konoha, so their troop movement will be smooth. That's the right location. Their army is at full strength and only limited by how quickly they can assemble their forces for the strike. They have the right people. Everything is in place for them to initiate a full-scale assault. As an example, we have Iwa. The Jonin nodded in agreement as Naruto answered. They have the right timing, but we've destroyed their right location and eliminated their right people with the plague, and that's why Iwa is not a threat to us right now. The conditions aren't right for them to attack. Although we are not as strong militarily as Kumo, we can outmaneuver them because they will be certain of winning. They won't anticipate being attacked in their own yard. Shikaku thought as he listened to the boy speak, impressive. Uzumaki, you just stated it yourself. After the fight with Suna and Otto, we're short-staffed. On what grounds? Something foolish that your master boy taught you? Before we decide to take on Kumo, it would be best to defend our borders and regain our strength, Danzo shot back. Need I remind you, Danzo? Sama, the silly little things you speak of are precisely what allowed us to predict Suna and Otto's attack. Furthermore, when Kumo launches a full-scale attack, we are unable to adequately defend our borders. The time to act is now. Like us, Suna is recuperating, and we have rendered Iwa incapable of attacking. Naruto shot back, we can now concentrate all of our strength on fending off Kumo. Uzumaki, you make a good argument, but I have to concur with Danzo. Before considering any countermeasures, we should maintain our forces for the time being. In such a vulnerable position, we don't want to initiate hostilities with Kumo, Kaharu remarked. No, Jiraiya said. As Naruto said, if Kumo attacks with full force, we won't be able to hold them off with our limited manpower. That's why we need to stop them before they can get a foothold. Danzo retorted, "That's starting a fight we cannot hope to win." It was odd that the shinobi who loved fighting would now prefer to stay out of combat at all costs. That is peculiar. It will be challenging with so little manpower available, but I have to keep a closer eye on him, Jiraiya mused to himself. Danzo. Sama, Shikamaru uttered. We've vanquished the sound and sand, sealed off Iwa temporarily, and now we only have Kumo to contend with. They currently pose the greatest direct threat to us, and we lack the manpower to fend off a full-scale attack from them. It makes sense that they will take advantage of the chance to launch an attack, and in this scenario, organizing a preemptive strike against them is doable. Shikamaru retaliated, this will put them on guard and slow their progress into the land of fire. Yes, this is accurate, but they can also utilize this as justification to attack us. They've done so before, and if given the chance, they will most definitely do so once more, Hiyashi retorted, fully aware of the Kumo shinobi's deceit. Exactly, and this would mean that no matter what we do we'll be under attack, interrupted Naruto at that point. We were able to think well ahead of our opponents, which allowed us to defeat Otto and Suna and stop Iwa from attacking. We had the upper hand in this fight from the start, and we will come to regret giving up the fight against Kumo now. It is imperative that we adopt an adversarial mindset, endeavoring to anticipate their potential actions and subsequently implementing measures to thwart their progress. In addition, I mentioned that we ought to strike Kumo as a preemptive measure, but I didn't specify whose soldiers we ought to use, did I? How are you going to match Kumo and Iwa? Though he agreed with the boy's arguments, Shikaku was very concerned about Danzo's intentions and he asked, seeing right through the boy's plan. The head of the Nara clan was listening intently to the heated argument, looking for both sides' strengths and weaknesses. We're going to train a team of Earth-type shinobi and disguise them as ninja from Iwa and let them ambush the Kumo shinobi as they try make their way to Konoha, Naruto said. What? To everyone's surprise in the room, I said. I've already given Kakashi the task of teaching a group of 50 Earth Chakra-type shinobi the special skills of the Iwagakure ninja. We will use these men to launch an attack on Kumo because we have Iwa uniforms in our warehouses from the previous war, Jiraiya declared. Therefore, tension between the two countries will arise and the Kumo ninja will believe that the attack is coming from Iwa, giving us time to recover. It will be too late by the time they realize they've been tricked, according to Anko. Although Iwa attacking Kumo is implausible, the plan is sound. They'll see right through our ruse, said Hiyashi. For that reason, as soon as the word gets back to Kumo, I asked Hokage Sama to use his spies to start rumors. They'll disseminate rumors that Iwa sought to overthrow Kumo in order to supplant Konoha as the greatest shinobi nation. It's not a smart idea to spread rumors about a village's strength, boy. That might have detrimental effects on the village's economy, Danzo retorted. Pretend to be strong when you are weak, and pretend to be weak when you are strong. It is evident that Konoha is a powerful village after taking down 2 villages simultaneously. Our goal is to deflect attention from ourselves rather than draw it in. Uzumaki and Shikamaru, it looks like your plan is coming together nicely. Bring Tsunade back to the village to aid in fortifying and defending it while defeating Suna and Otto, blocking Iwa, and forcing Iwa to engage in combat with Kumo. With that, we can address the most important issues and restore our lost forces, Shikaku remarked. Indeed, Shikaku. Dono. Based on our calculations of how long it would take for Kumo to organize their forces and how long it would take for word of the war to spread to the other nations. We calculated that it would take 3 weeks for Kumo to call up a battalion, at the very least, fully stocked with food to try our stamina, and another 2 or 3 months for them to be ready for action. Kakashi will need to train non-stop for a week and a half in order to get the ambush team ready to attack Kumo. The group will then need an additional week to get ready to ambush the Kumo shinobi as they approach the boundaries of Shimo territory, and when they recover their composure following the ambush, they will withdraw. The Kumo shinobi will then go back to their cage and report what transpired. We should be able to really sour things between Iwa and Kumo now that the rumors are starting to spread, Shikamaru remarked. Sounds like a good plan, Akamichi Choza said, but it has been a week since the battle. We won't be able to mobilize the men in time to prepare a preemptive strike on Kumo before they are able to advance on the Konoha. Kakashi has finished training the men and they are preparing to move out in the next 2 days, Jiraiya said. We've been making preparations since the battle between Suna and Otto was completed. You can't make such decisions without the council's approval, Danzo retorted. I have already given Kakashi the task of becoming the Hokage. I am Danzo now. The plan had already been approved by the previous Hokage, so there was no time for discussion. As a result, I didn't need to discuss this with the council. The Brats came up with a fantastic plan right away, and they haven't disappointed one bit. I will support their ideas, just as the Sandaime did, and you should too. Power struggles and egotism are not appropriate right now. You need to defend our village because it is in danger. Jiraiya would not be intimidated by the council, unlike Sarutobi, and Danzo had no response to his Kage's firm words. It was late evening, the sun was setting, and Sasuke was strolling through the village, his little trek taking him to near the outskirts of the village where farmers planted their crops near a small river's edge, but he barely noticed where he was walking. This was happening while the Konoha War Council was meeting, and a young Uchiha, whose mind was in great turmoil, was trying to make sense of his life. After being promoted to Chunin, Sasuke's mind was in a daze because he was now expected to lead teams on missions and perform all the other duties expected of ninja with that rank. Although this was a good acknowledgement of his skills, it was an unwanted diversion from his real goal, which was to exact revenge on his clan. To make matters worse, Sasuke couldn't shake the fear of losing his teammates and the relationships he was forming on the battlefield. "Hey, kid, come help me here," a firm voice from an elderly man snapped the young Uchiha out of his daze. "Me?" Sasuke questioned inquisitively. "Yes, you young one. Please come assist me with these potato baskets. After a hard day at work, my back hurts, and I still have a lot of potato boxes to move to the cart." Sasuke shot back, saying, "You could have asked kinder. Come on, help me, brat, just come." The elderly man uttered those words. "Phew," as Sasuke asked, he halted his lengthy stroll to assist the elderly man carrying his baskets of potatoes. When Sasuke and the old man had packed all the potatoes into the cart, it was dark. The physical strain of the work helped to temporarily distract Sasuke from his problems. The two men took a seat on the ground close to a water source to relieve their thirst. "Why are you working so hard on your own, physically? You don't have kids who could help you?" asked Sasuke. "Not at all. I had a daughter and 3 sons. Each of the shinobi lost their lives while protecting the village. My last one was roughly your age, maybe a little older, and he died in the Suna Auto invasion." The old man stated simply, he was a good kid and a chunin. "I never told them that, even though they knew it. He was my favorite of the 4. "How is your spouse doing?" The man answered, "She passed away 2 years ago, she died peacefully in her sleep." Sasuke remarked, "So you are all alone then?" The old man answered, "No, I'm not, and you're not, kid." "How are you aware that I'm alone?" questioned Sasuke. "You see, little one, see. The windows to the soul are the eyes. Simply look a man in the eyes and you will see the truth about what lies in his heart. The eyes are not deceiving. I can see by the look in your eyes that you are troubled and lonely. All the children in the village are connected to each other. My food helps sustain families, and those families raise children who become resilient adults who battle and sacrifice their lives to defend the village. As ridiculous as it may sound, there is no such thing as separation because no man is an island. Every accomplishment he makes is always derived from the labor of those who came before him. Are you a shrink of some sort?" Sasuke uttered something irritated. "Brat, I could read you like a book because I had 4 kids." The old man laughed as Sasuke just turned his head away and grunted. "You make me think of my former son. Stubborn and with a strong will. He wanted to be like his brothers and sisters, but I didn't want him to turn into a shinobi." Sasuke was startled by the old man's remarks and suddenly thought back to his brother and how much he had tried to emulate Itachi. "Did you not attempt to stop him?" questioned Sasuke. "No, why? He was your last child." The old farmer said, "True, but he was his own man as well." "Child, choices make our lives. We decide to do certain things and not others. For what reason is that the case?" Sasuke gave it a lot of thought but was unable to come up with a response. "Child, if you really think about it, you will see that this is true. We make decisions because they help us achieve our objectives. The real query, though, is, are you actually making your own decisions, or is someone else choosing for you?" "What?" the boy said, looking really perplexed. "Kid, are your decisions truly your own?" The old man concluded with a large yawn, saying, "When you find your answer, you will be freed from the turmoil in your heart. It is now time for me to return home and relax. It has been a long day, and tomorrow will be even more so." "Do you need my assistance returning?" questioned Sasuke. "No, I'm a good kid. Return home and rest." "Hey, you're directing me once more, old man." "Ha ha 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 ha." The old farmer laughed, echoing in the darkness, and before he left Sasuke on his own, he had a few last words for him. "Live the life you want to live, not the life others want you to live. You are your own man. The man you wish to be is entirely up to you. Never forget that." The young Uchiha had a lot on his mind as he then drove off into the night with his wagon. Hey! As Sasuke watched the old man's silhouette vanish into the night, he muttered to himself. Within Suna, the war council, having been duped into fighting a war they didn't want to fight, was making preparations for peace. Now, they had to unconditionally surrender to Konoha. We are in no position to bargain with Konohas as it regarded the battle, despite the fact that we were dragged into the war by an impostor, council member Yuki said. I agree that we lost a sizable portion of our forces in addition to losing the battle. I had no idea that Konoha would be so strong when under attack from two countries at once, even though they were tricked into fighting us. Another council member said, to think a kid could blow up almost 3,000 men. Yes, the full extent of our defeat was unexpected. I've heard that a child from Nara and a child from Uzumaki came up with the entire scheme. Perhaps we could propose that the daughter of the late Kazekage and one of the two boys get married to demonstrate the sincerity of our actions? May I ask? Yuki inquired. The Suna Council had been searching for a way to demonstrate to Konoha that they were sincere in their surrender, especially since they had broken their alliance with Konoha to end the war between the two countries without their consent. One suggestion made to Konoha was to marry Tamari, the daughter of the Kazekage, to one of the boys who had planned the battle plan that would defeat them. It seemed like a win-win situation, as the marriage would both guarantee that Tamari would have a worthy suitor and would reaffirm the council's commitment to maintaining peace between the two countries. They were discussing which boy would make the ideal suitor for Tamari. The Nara child would make a better Tamari heir, in contrast to the Uzumaki child, who has no real standing in the village, his clan as well. Known and enjoys a high status there, a council member stated. However, another retorted. The Uzumaki kid was the leader of the army that defeated our forces, he would no doubt rise in status in the village. That's true, but I don't think we'll want to marry our heir to the guy who essentially destroyed nearly half of our army. Takasajij, what have you got to say? You've been quiet the whole time. The veteran was trying to absorb all the information and make the best decision possible, so he was listening to both sides of the story. He said, we ought to marry Tamari to the Uzumaki child. Taka-san, what is the foundation for your conclusion? Inquired a council member. A remarkable accomplishment for someone so young is that the Uzumaki is highly respected by his men, even though he doesn't have the same social standing as the Nara child. Using far less force, he managed to pull off the crushing of our army on his own. I am confident that in a few years, his social status won't be a concern. He will undoubtedly become a prominent figure in the village very soon. I knew he would grow into a great man when I first met him on the battlefield. There is something about the Uzumaki that is different, but I'm not saying the Nara child won't be fantastic. Taka-san, thank you for your contribution. The council member said, it appears that we are unable to come to a consensus on the matter. And the discussion went on. In the meantime, Gaara was looking for his epiphany just like Sasuke was. Tamari was aware that the council intended to force her into a political marriage in order to maintain harmony between the two villages. She was prepared to carry out this duty as a devoted shinobi of the sand in order to protect her village, but as a woman, she detested the thought of being married to either a young, wealthy merchant boy who would have multiple wives or an old, decrepit man to whom she would have to submit. She wanted to be reasonably happy, even if it meant marrying a man she didn't know. Sadly, her life was not in her control. Hey sis, I've heard those bastards want to wed you off to a jerk from Konoha. It was clear that Kankuro was angry as he spoke. Yes, that is the council's intention, and it will aid in averting more hostilities between the villages. Should marrying a bastard be necessary to fulfill my duty to my village, I am willing to do so. Kankuro bluntly said, even if it means there won't be a war between us and Konoha, I still don't like the idea of you marrying some jerk. Well, what's up with Gaara? He's changed so much since the battle that I haven't seen him around much. Indeed, he has grown kinder. The incident involving the Uzumaki child must have had that effect. Tamari answered, whatever happened between the two of them during the battle really changed our little brother. Yes, I think I like him even more now, Kankuro said, maybe I can be a big brother for real now. Tamari and Kankuro had no idea that Gaara was listening in on every word they said while perched atop their home's roof, overlooking the village. They always loved me, even with the way I treated them. They were by my side, trying to keep me safe, so I was never alone. Gaara thought to himself, I never gave them the chance to be elder siblings. Flashes of his battle with the Uzumaki danced in his mind, and Gaara remembered those words as he saw how the Uzumaki's subordinates cared about him and wanted him to be safe, how strong and determined Naruto had been in the battle, and how certain he was to protect his village. I never fight for personal gain or retaliation. I battle to keep the village and the person I love safe. That concludes it, as his eyes grew wide with recognition, Gaara thought. Because Uzumaki was fighting for his men and his village rather than for himself, his men loved and cared for him so much. Unlike me, Uzumaki Naruto did not fight for personal gain. I want more than just my siblings. I want the shinobi in this village to love and take care of me. I wish to fight for a cause greater than myself. It was at that moment that Gaara made the decision to become the Kazekage, but not before he had to protect his sister and end a council meeting. The Sans Shinobi Council met 2 days later to decide on the conditions of their surrender to Konoha and who would be their preferred suitor for Temari. Gaara was moving through the village toward the council chamber while the session was in session, and everyone in the village was staring at him with fear on their faces. Gaara was hurt to see the villagers' terrified expressions, but he understood that establishing trust was a challenging task. Some children were playing kickball nearby, oblivious to the apparent danger, when one of the children kicked the ball a little too hard, sending it skyward and becoming stuck in a tall nearby tree. The children stood in a circle around the tree, sobbing, staring helplessly at their toy that they were unable to reach. When Gaara saw the children in trouble, he started to move toward them to assist them in getting their ball, and as he got closer, the street fell silent, leaving only the sound of the children's cries and the soft wind. When the kids saw Gaara coming toward them, they were too scared to move. They didn't know who he was, but they knew when they saw the scary gourd on his back and his face, that he was a dangerous man, and they instinctively closed their eyes, hoping that he would disappear. A small tuft of sand rose from the ground as Gaara approached the tree, picking up one of the small girls and lifting her high enough to retrieve her ball. Everyone, shinobi and civilian alike, let out gasps of fear, bracing themselves for what might happen. The young girl, frozen in terror, felt her body ebb and flow. She opened her eyes reluctantly and saw that she was standing right in front of the ball, which she took from the tree without much thought. She looked down and saw that she was high above the street, staring down at her awestruck friends in a stunned village. Gradually, she saw the sand pulling her closer to the ground until she was once again with her friends. Gaara was heading to his destination after assisting the children in getting their ball when he heard a small girl's voice. "I'm grateful, sir," the young child said. It was the first time someone from the village had ever said thank you to him, not that they had any reason to thank him in the first place. Gaara turned to face the little girl, his face betraying the emotions that were bubbling up inside of him. Gaara was unsure of how to react to appreciation. He replied, You are welcome," although he felt awkward saying such kind words. With a smile, the young girl inquired, "Mister, what is your name?" If the initial, "thank you," made him feel uncomfortable, the subsequent question completely transformed him into someone else. "Gaara is my name." "What's your name?" It was so strange to Gaara to feel so vulnerable against such a tiny and harmless person. He asked hesitantly as he ventured into the unknown world of human interaction. By this point, the entire area was at a standstill watching the village's most notorious killer talk to a child. "This is Hato, Mikumi, Lita, and Shinju. My name is Mimi," the young child said, pointing to each of her pals. The children had completely forgotten their fear of Gaara by this point, and they were asking him a ton of questions, which was too much for the young man who was still getting used to speaking to people. "Can I ride on your sand like Mimi, Gaara? Ni-chan?" Hato timidly inquired. "Me too," Lita uttered. "I'd like to ride too." The girl uttered those words. "I wish to resume riding," Mimi uttered. "Not fair. You must already get on the ride." Mikumi became enraged as her friend attempted to control every sand ride. Gaara did not know how to respond to such a situation, so he did what his mind told him to do, which was to let everyone ride, and soon their fear turned into a full-blown argument about who was getting to ride his sand next. Gaara remarked, "You know you can all ride at once." "Really?" they all said at once. "Indeed? Congrats." They all jumped around and gave a cheer. Using his sand, Gaara picked up each happy child one by one. "Are you okay with me only offering a ride to the end of the street? I need to take care of business," he uttered. "Yes, Gaara." "Ni-chan," the children replied. The entire area was silently in awe at the sight of the demon killer of the village leading a group of laughing kids through the streets on his sand. Kankuro and Temari were on their way to the tower to hear the council's decision when they heard what was happening. Like everyone else, Temari and Kankuro were completely taken aback by what they saw. "It's unbelievable," Temari uttered. "Neither do I, please pinch me," Kankuro begged his sister, who instantly gave him a headshake and threw him across the street with her fan. "Are you having dreams?" Temari inquired. Kankuro was not dreaming, he realized as he rubbed his aching head. "No sis, what we're seeing is real," I said, he said. All right, she said, watching the spectacle with the incredulous village while holding her fan limply in her arm. Gaara was about to say goodbye to the kids as he arrived at the end of the street when Mimi gestured for him to come over. Gaara bent down to look the girl in the eye and ask what she wanted, so she was taken aback when Mimi just smiled, approached him, kissed him on the cheek, and put her little arms around him. The sincerity of the young girl completely and utterly destroyed Gaara's impenetrable armor of sand that protected him from every kind of danger. Gaara had lived almost his entire life alone and was completely unaccustomed to physical contact. Instinctively, Gaara closed his eyes. It was the natural human response to a tender and loving embrace that contained no malice or ulterior motives. And soon, one by one, the children he had assisted in retrieving their toy and providing them with an enjoyable ride began to embrace him. His limp, trembling hands slowly raised up and returned the child's warm embrace. It was an impressive sight. She knew then that her brother was forever changed, and it was all because of Uzumaki Naruto. If there was one Konoha man she would have no qualms about marrying, it would be him. The man who saved her brother from loneliness. Looking on Temari, she could not contain the tears that were streaming from her eyes. Her younger brother, who was so starved of love and affection, finally found it in the embrace of a child. The children pleaded with him to return and play with them after they had all given him hugs. Gaara, Nichan, please come play with us once more. Please. They all begged. The words, "I will come again and play with you all," were spoken by Gaara, who had a slightly emotional tone. Make us a promise. Mimi made a demand. I swear, Gaara said in a reassuring voice. Pinky, assure me. Lita made a demand. Does Pinky swear? Gaara inquired, unsure of what a pink swear was. Mimi merely chuckled, extending her pinky finger, and spoke. Plastic your index finger on mine. The young girl gave an order. Gaara was forced to submit to the commanding child in front of him. Now that you've pinky sweared, you must come and play with us next time, Hato said. Gaara said, a little perplexed, okay. The sight made Temari, Konkuro, and a few other villagers laugh out loud. Gaara and the children said their goodbyes and he signed an official agreement to play with Mimi and his friends once more. Mimi turned as she was ready to go and told Gaara something that astounded him. I'm glad I met you, Gaara. Nichan, she remarked. Goodbye. As she fled her village and shocked Gaara behind, rushing back to her parents. Gaara took a few moments to gather his thoughts after that bizarre experience and proceeded toward the council chamber while standing in the middle of the street, oblivious to the fact that everyone was staring at him. Gaara was certain he would become Suna's cage after what happened to the children. Not too long afterward, Gaara arrived at the chamber, and since none of the shinobi in attendance dared to try to stop him, he entered the meeting with ease, the soft embrace of the children still clinging to his body and spirit. Upon entering the chamber, he saw that his brother and sister were already there. Yuki remarked, nice to see you, Gaara. We were just about to inform Temari that we were going to wed her to the heir of the Nara clan to ease the tension between Konoha and Suna. Nah. Gaara uttered. He declared in a tone that would not budge, if my sister is to marry anyone, she will marry the Uzumaki. Nobody in the council dared to challenge him. Temari didn't either. Naruto separated himself from his opponent by performing a sequence of backflips. He was perspiring heavily because he was finding it extremely difficult to dodge all of his opponent's accurate blows. Even though the pain in his arms was starting to numb him, he was keeping his entire focus on his opponent. Hinata, adopting the traditional Juken stance, remarked, You retreat? This not like you Naruto-kun. To Hinata's taunt, Naruto replied, Don't put on a brave face, Heim. I know you are starting to get tired. Hinata retorted, I survived a lot longer than the last time we sparred. Naruto shot back, and I haven't received as many hits as the last time. Naruto and Hinata were sparring to get stronger, while other couples were going on dates and enjoying romantic dinners. While Hinata trained to preserve her stamina for protracted battles against opponents with greater stamina, Naruto trained to fight at a disadvantage. As Hinata uttered the hand signs, Mizuhari no Jutsu, and said, Well, let's end this Naruto-kun. Needles of water started to form in the nearby pond at her command. Naruto thought to himself, this is not going to be fun, as he started to duck and weave to try to escape the water projectiles. But in addition to dodging the water projectiles, Naruto was attempting to set himself up for a counterattack. After a while, he managed to find a hole in the water attack and launched himself at Hinata, just as she had desired. Naruto saw a smile appear on his girlfriend's face as he was about to punch her. He yelled to himself, shit, while attempting to deflect the blow and lessen its impact. But Hinata's body was whirling so violently that chakra started to gather around it, and it was too late for Naruto. "Kaden!" she exclaimed, blasting her boyfriend away and forming a shield as she released the chakra from her body. To his credit, Naruto maintained his poise and straightened out his body while the Hyuga secret technique violently propelled him away. Surprised, Naruto exclaimed, "You learned the Kaden and ninjutsu. Father began teaching me the secret techniques of the main house, but the ninjutsu was something I was working on my own. Father doesn't know, but I have been learning ninjutsu and genjutsu from Kurenai-sensei and on my own." With evident pride in his voice, Naruto said, "Hinata, you are really impressing and making me proud. You are getting stronger and stronger every day. I have to become stronger for my clan and my village as well. You taught me that," she replied. "Yes, becoming stronger is important for the sake of your clan and your village. Let's continue to get stronger together." But their chat was cut short when Anbu guard Kat.san showed up. "Naruto.san, you are required to appear before the Shinobi Council within the next hour." "Why? I was there yesterday, and I told them everything that they needed to know." "No, it's not about yesterday's meeting, it's about Suna's surrender." Curious, Naruto said, "What about it? What does that have to do with me?" With a hint of anxiety in his voice, Kat remarked, "I don't think Hinata.san would want to hear this." Naruto inquired, "Is it top secret?" "No, it is not, but Hinata won't like the news." Hinata said, "You can say what you have to say, Kat.san." The Anbu responded, "If you insist." As part of San's surrender, to show their sincerity, they've arranged for the late Kasuke's daughter to be wed to Naruto. Suddenly, the atmosphere turned icy and unwelcoming. "What?" growled Hinata. "They want to marry my Naruto.kun to that Sabaku." With an icy tone, she exclaimed, "No, he will not." With a defeated sigh, the Anbu shook his head and spoke. He said, "Just report to the council in the next hour," and then he was out of sight. The Anbu thought to himself as he leapt away, "I wish I could have been there for the show." Before that night, an envoy from Suna had come earlier in the evening to finalize the terms of the village's surrender to Konoha. The Suna envoy's speaker was expected to be welcomed by Jiraiya, the soon-to-be Hokage, and the other members of the Shinobi Council in Konoha's council chamber. "Honorable Konoha Council, we are here on the behalf of the people of Suna and the Land of Wind in order to negotiate the terms of our surrender." "State your terms," Jiraiya commanded in a firm tone that made it clear he was serious. "Our people broke the treaty that for so long bonded our two villages through our negligence in failing to identifying a traitor among our ranks. Thus, we've come to offer Suna's unconditional surrender to Konoha." Jiraiya merely nodded before speaking. "Go on. In addition to the terms demanded by Konoha, we wish to show our sincerity to the council, the village, and the Land of Fire by suggesting an arranged marriage between the late Kasuke's daughter and Uzumaki Naruto. This marriage will help strengthen the ties between our villages and help repair the bond of trust that was broken." There were a few murmurs among the Shinobi Council at the envoy's declaration. "Konoha accepts the terms and conditions of Suna's surrender, but on one condition," Jiraiya said. The representative inquired, "What condition, Hokage, Sama?" "Let the Uzumaki decide his fate for himself." Then he gestured for one of his Anbu guards, who materialized right away. "Go find Naruto and tell him get his butt here in an hour." "Yes, Hokage. Sama," the Anbu wearing a mask said before vanishing. After an hour, Hinata waited for Naruto's meeting with the council outside the council chamber. He invited her to accompany him, knowing that the meeting would be over quickly. While seated in a chair in the waiting area, she noticed Temari walking over. Temari was wearing a stunning red and white kimono. Two Sand Shinobi stood on either side of her rival in both battle and love. Their eyes met with a hard stare as their paths came together. The proud green eyes of the Sabaku were fixed firmly and defiantly by the cold, pale gaze of the Hyugas Byakugan. The intense rivalry between the two heated rivals was evident in their gazes. Their eyes met as Temari and her bodyguards moved on, heading for their destination while Hinata stayed behind, contemplating the meeting's outcome. As instructed by his kage, Naruto faced the council once more. With a menacing grin, Jiraiya said, "Bring her in." Temari arrived moments later, elegantly clad in a long, red and white kimono. Suna, as part of their surrender, have decided to wed their former kage's first daughter Sabaku Temari to you as a means of strengthening the ties between our villages, Jiraiya said. "I have left it up to you to decide your fate as it pertains to this matter." Which Naruto answered right away, "No, I will not wed Sabaku Temari." The Suna representative answered, We don't mean to be rude or overbearing, but may I ask why are you passing up the opportunity? The fact that this was the first time a man had publicly turned down a marriage proposal from a stunning, educated young woman piqued his curiosity. She is being forced into a life that is not of her choosing, and that is no way for a person to live their life. I will not be a part of such an act. Naruto responded. The council was not surprised by his response, as they were well aware of the boy's character. But Temari's answer took them completely by surprise. Naruto-san, before I knew who I was going to be wed to, I was filled with fear and anger at my fate, but I was willing to do it nonetheless because such things are part of the life of Kunoichi and my fate would help protect my village. Therefore, it was a price I was willing to pay. However, when it was decided that I would be wed to you, I was happy because I knew that I would be with the man who gave me back my brother. Whatever happened between you and Gaara in your battle changed my brother. He is rapidly gaining acceptance within the village and has grown to love it more than ever. I am eternally grateful to you for that, and I would be more than happy to be your wife, Temari said sincerely with her head bowed. The council observed the two children's conversation in silence while Jiraiya, armed with his reliable notepad and pencil, jotted down a highly stylized love scene for his upcoming book. This is going to be my next hit. The council was aware that there would always be an exciting show when Naruto was involved, and he did not let them down. Slowly raising her head, the Kunoichi said, "Look at me, Temari-san. I am the one who is solely responsible for the massacre of your people. I purposefully planned to blow them to bits and pieces for attacking my village. I watched and listened as the men and women of your village screamed in pain as their bodies were ripped apart in the explosion. Even further, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching as my enemies were literally ripped asunder right before my eyes. Their blood and bodies were raining down on the village, and I could only feel a sense of euphoria and bloodlust. I wanted to kill each and every last one of you. When I was done massacring your people, I had their mangled and dismembered bodies dumped in the river to rot and cause chaos." As Naruto told the lurid story of Konoha vs Suna's battle during the invasion, Temari started to tremble and look away. As Naruto spoke, she felt sorrow, rage, and pain. He painted a vivid, somber, and agonizing picture. I wanted Suna to have a horrific reminder of what happens to those who show aggression towards Konoha in the most gruesome manner possible. I wanted your people and Shinobi have nightmares for decades about what happened so that the next time your village ever thought about betrayal or aggression towards Konoha, you all would be reminded of the horrors that we are capable of perpetrating for the sake of defending our village. Suna was also a message to the rest of the other villages to not mess with us. It was a message written in the blood of thousands of your comrades and friends. Naruto firmly told the girl who was averting her gaze from him, "Look at me, Temari." Temari answered back. Naruto asked, peering into her deep brown eyes, "Do you really want to spend the rest of your life with the man who perpetrated such violence towards your people?" The entire council room was eagerly awaiting the girl's response. She answered, "Yes," in a firm, forceful tone while crying, surprising Naruto and everyone else in the room. "My answer is yes, Naruto. They were doing their duty and you were doing yours. It is the way of war and shinobi life. I cannot fault you for doing your duty because had you not, many more people may have died, and I would not have regained my little brother. I would gladly marry you because I know that you would go to any length, no matter gruesome or brutal, to protect the ones you love, and I know I would be in good hands." Naruto's tone softened at her words. "Sabaku Temari, you are a strong and beautiful woman deserving of a man that will treat you right and honor you as the woman you are. I would gladly take you as my wife." Before it was crushed, Temari's heart started to bubble with happiness. "However, my heart belongs to someone else and I will not dishonor her or her family by entering into such a union. The ties between our villages should not be unduly hampered by this." Though Hiyashi knew Naruto had every right to decline the offer, he was still happy with the boy's regard for the clan and his daughter's sentiments. Hiyashi made the right decision in letting Hinata date Naruto. Temari spoke, her heart quivering, "So I lose to her for a second time?" Naruto answered, "This time you weren't enemies." It was widely understood that they were discussing the conflict that arose between her and Hinata during the Chunin exam. Jiraiya interrupted the brief conversation to adjourn Naruto's meeting. "I guess it has been decided then. Konoha accepts Suna's unconditional surrender except for the proposed marriage between Uzumaki Naruto and Sabaku Temari. I, the council, the village, and the land of fire shall honor the terms of the agreement," Jiraiya said formally. The representative of Suna bowed respectfully to the council and said, "Thank you, Hokage Sama. The people of Suna and the Land of Wind wish to foster a new era of peace and prosperity between our two villages. Escort her back to her hotel and she may visit the sites in the village if she so chooses, Jiraiya commanded. Thank Naruto, you may also leave. We have more business to attend to with the Suna representative. As the meeting continued to iron out the finer points of the surrender, Jiraiya said to the boy. Naruto bowed to his cage and said, Thank you, Hokage. Sama, he turned to face the council members and bowed once more. He said, Council members, I take my leave, and turned to walk away. Tamari passed a well-known enemy as she was leaving the council chamber. Their eyes met once more, and though Tamari was doing her best to hide it, Hinata could still see the disappointment in her eyes. She paused briefly, looked straight into Hinata's eyes, and spoke when she got in front of the Hyuga girl. Look after him, he's a good man, she said as she left the waiting area. Hinata answered, I know, and I will take care of him. As soon as Hinata had finished speaking, she noticed Naruto leaving the room. She hurried over to give him a firm hug, which he duly returned. Tamari stood between the partially opened doors at the end of the hallway, staring at the couple and wishing that she had been the one hugging Naruto. Tears started to turn her green eyes gray, but she consoled herself by whispering to herself, all is fair in love and war, right? Then she was gone. The closed door that eliminated all possibility of the future she so desperately desired. Perhaps in love and war, nothing is fair. 2 days later, 2 men were in a covert location inside the Land of Fire's boundaries. It was tough sneaking in the Land of Fire with so many patrols running around, one man said. Yes. Unsurprisingly, Konoha has ramped up its border defenses. They stopped Iwa, Suna surrendered and Otto will lay low to recover. Kumo is going to take the chance to attack for sure, the other man said. I wonder how Konoha is going to react. The best possible plan would be enact a surprise counterattack against Kumo as they don't have the strength to repel them in a head battle. You think they'll do it? Yes. The Uzumaki and the Nara would have figured out that a preemptive strike is the best possible option. But what Konoha does is not our concern, we came for the Kyuubi. Our spies in Konoha said that the security is tight, even more so than the border, therefore we won't be able to sneak in. However, they also said that Hokage-be, Jiraiya, will be heading out with the Uzumaki to look for Tsunade. We'll ambush them when they leave the village. The other shinobi yelled, No, I know a way into the village. Jiraiya is one of the Sannin and based on the reports Uzumaki Naruto took down the Ichibi in its full form. Trying to ambush them together will decrease our chance for success. I'll get us into the village and we'll ambush the Uzumaki when he's alone. Sounds like you are afraid of Jiraiya? Remember, our mission is to kidnap the Kyuubi, not start a fight. You don't want to destroy your village any more than it has been. Itachi? Kisame said. Itachi said in a tone devoid of emotion, I don't care whether the village is destroyed. We just need to finish our mission. I no longer hold ties to it. Kisame exclaimed, Hey, let's do this then. Naruto and Hinata were strolling around the periphery of one of the training grounds later that evening. The village was starting to close for the night, and the couple was enjoying the cozy atmosphere that pervaded. As they strolled across the isolated grounds, Naruto-kun, it was a fascinating day, Hinata remarked. That Tamari girl really likes you a lot. Why didn't you accept Suna's offer? You would have all rights to do so, especially since you're the last of your clan. Hinata said. She was well aware that clans enjoy a great deal of discretion, particularly when it comes to securing the lineage. He stopped to face his girlfriend, staring her in the eyes, and said, Yes, Hinata-chan. Today was a very interesting day. I didn't accept the offer because I did not want to dishonor you or your clan. And besides, I want no one else but you. She gave him a strong hug and exclaimed, Thank you, Naruto-kun. I want no one else but you too. The couple saw Sasuke training in one of the isolated areas of the village as they kept walking along their route. They went up to speak with the Uchiha for a little while before carrying on with their walk. Naruto said, Hey Sasuke, how have you been? Sasuke answered in a semi-annoyed tone, I'm fine. Even though he came to this isolated location to be alone, he was still discovered. Being a Chunin meant having extra missions because of the lack of manpower after the invasion failed, which made life very busy. He wanted to maximize every moment he could get to train because time was of the essence. It's been pretty hectic with all the patrols, but I am sure you're doing an excellent job at being a Chunin, Naruto commented. Yes, Sasuke answered in a tone that seemed a little indifferent. With all those missions going on right now, there isn't much time for training. Well done on making Chunin, Hinata said with grace. Thank you, Hinata. I heard you did well in the exam yourself. Hinata turned to face Naruto after saying, Thank you, Sasuke-san. Let's leave him so that he could get the best out of his limited training time. Yes, Haim, let's go, take care Sasuke. Then, Sasuke answered. After about 30 minutes of walking, Naruto and Hinata stopped by a nearby river to unwind and hold hands. But while the two were savoring their embrace, Naruto sensed the presence of two very hostile and hardly restrained chakras nearby. Maintaining his calm, he softly spoke in her ear. Hinata. Haim, go inform the Hokage that Akatsuki is here. With unwavering composure, Hinata withdrew from Naruto's embrace, kissed him briefly on the lips, nodded, and leapt into the trees. There was nothing more to say. The two men leapt from their hiding places a moment later. Impressive Naruto-kun. You sensed our presence. You really can't sneak up on a swordsman, Itachi mused. Kisame continued. The little runt isn't too bad, plus he seems to have the beast's chakra in check. Naruto answered, so I was right. You are from Akatsuki. With a curious tone, Itachi questioned, you know of us? Naruto retorted, do you think I'm not aware of the people pursuing my tenant? Your girlfriend isn't going to make it in time, you know, Itachi said. It will take her 15 minutes to get to the village, and it will take the fastest shinobi about 15 minutes to get here, plus the time it would take to get the men together, Naruto replied. I know my village, Itachi. I am indeed impressed, Naruto-kun. So you should also have deduced that you have no hope of surviving until then. You all need me alive. You can't kill me. It's much more difficult to capture an opponent than to kill them. Itachi stood behind the boy and yelled, you overestimate yourself, Naruto-kun. Quick. Naruto pondered. Naruto yelled, you underestimate me, Itachi-kun, as his sword went through the clone's abdomen. The boy was rendered blind as soon as the clone turned into a swarm of crows. In an attempt to amputate a limb, Kisame swung his massive Samahata at the boy's legs. When Naruto sensed an attack was about to happen, he spun around in midair and executed a horizontal slash that severed Kisame's head, causing his body to instantly transform into water. He's good, Itachi, Kisame exclaimed to his partner, who was positioned beside him. You were trained really well. The legends of master swordsmen being highly resistant to genjutsu is true. I still have a very long way to go before I can be considered a master, but you aren't going to fool me with cheap mind tricks either. Naruto replied. Large blue. Colored shinobi said, let me play with him for a bit Itachi, I won't be long. Don't underestimate him Kisame. We don't have the time to play around. As he readied a jutsu, Kisame exclaimed, I won't be long. Kisame was about to summon his jutsu when he noticed Naruto standing next to him. Sweeten. Water. Kisame exclaimed, oh. Just before he was cut in half and transformed into a mound of water. A few feet away, Naruto's sword and Kisame's collided with a sound like metal hitting metal. His sense of smell is excellent, Kisame pondered. However, the child was no match for the blue swordsman in terms of strength. Kisame was able to propel Naruto's relatively small frame away from him and in the direction of one of the bigger trees with minimal effort. In midair, Naruto corrected himself and landed on one of the trees with his feet first. He landed softly on the ground and assumed a loose defensive stance. You're not too bad kid, but your time is running out. Itachi said coolly, Kisame, I'll take it from here. What you think I can't take him out? No, I know you can take him out, but he's using a jutsu intercepting technique designed to catch the ninja off guard in battle. It's one of the techniques that made the samurai swordsman very difficult to deal with. Also, he's also more agile than you and I'm sure he has the stamina to keep up with you. Additionally, with the fact that you can't use excessive jutsu, which is your forte, makes you unsuitable for this kind of particular mission. Therefore, it's better if I handle him, Itachi said as he approached the boy. Kisame was unable to argue with Itachi's reasoning. Itachi stepped forward and started to speak. You continue to impress me Naruto-kun. Keeping calm in such a dangerous situation against opponents you cannot possibly defeat at your current skill level. Your jutsu intercepting technique is good. You can sense when your opponent is about to mold chakra and intercept them at their most vulnerable position. However, how will you deal with an opponent who can mold chakra faster than you can react? Itachi said as he raised his hands and blew out a huge ball of fire. Kaden. Gyokakyu no Jutsu. Naruto exclaimed, whoa, as he avoided the enormous fireball. But his new opponent's viscous right kick was too much for him to parry. Before Naruto could get better, a hail of kunai attacked him. He wasn't getting enough time to launch an attack from Itachi. Mayushi was quietly observing the combat between his pupil and the two elite shinobi from a nearby location. After sensing the two menacing energies following Naruto for some time, he made the decision to find out what their goals were. The boy would learn quickly from fighting powerful opponents, which would help him develop more quickly. This Itachi character impressed him. He was cool, collected, and strategic. Mayushi thought as his pupil was firmly on the defensive, "Stay calm, Naruto, stay calm and keep your composure." Hinata was running as fast as she could to return to the village while Mayushi watched his student being trained by the men tasked with capturing him. She was moving toward the Hokage's office, loading her legs with all the chakra she could muster. She turned on her Byakugan to try to find any shinobi in the area so she could help Naruto. She soon found Sasuke, who was still practicing in a nearby area. Sasuke ought to be able to give Naruto enough support until assistance arrives. On her way to the Uchiha, she pulled out a small scroll and started writing information on it. Sasuke, meanwhile, was working diligently when he sensed a presence quickly drawing near to him. Even though it didn't appear to be an enemy, he remained cautious. Soon afterward, he noticed Hinata swooping past him on the treetops above. His initial suspicion that something wasn't right was validated when he skillfully picked up the little note and saw that it was reading: "Due north, river, Naruto, Akatsuki, help." Sasuke quickly left to help Naruto. Naruto, meanwhile, was having trouble keeping up with Itachi. Naruto had already sustained several cuts and bruises from the Uchiha, but the boy was not incapacitated enough for the Uchiha to take him out. He is very strong defensively. He has very few openings to exploit, and getting to them is quite a challenge while not being serious. It seems I have to get a bit serious in order to capture Naruto. Your chance to capture has long gone, Itachi. You don't always have to win a battle in order to be victorious. Naruto commented. He sensed Sasuke moving quickly to his aid. My stupid younger brother is here, Itachi said without emotion. Sasuke landed close to Naruto shortly after, his sword out. I came to help because Hinata told me Akatsuki was here, Sasuke remarked. Naruto answered, yeah, thanks. We just need to hold out till reinforcements arrive. With Sharingan blazing at his brother, Sasuke said gravely, I'll take care of Itachi and you handle his partner. Naruto exclaimed, yes, let's go, as they got ready to strike. Be quick, Kisame, our time here is quickly running out, Itachi said. Kisame answered, okay, I'll be a little serious. Mayushi was enjoying the show not too far away. This should be really interesting. I wish I had some popcorn. After arriving in the village, Hinata immediately headed towards the Hokage Tower. It was not surprising that, for a shinobi with nearly 360 degrees of vision, she was currently tunnel-visioned. As Jiraiya and the other council members were discussing the specifics of Suna and Konoha's surrender at the Hokage Tower, Hinata stormed into the room. Hokage. Sama. Naruto and Sasuke are fighting two Akatsuki members right now at the North Bridge by the river. After Hinata concluded her statement, Jiraiya left the room quickly, followed by Hiyashi and the other members of the Shinobi Council. Kaharu spoke calmly, please be calm, guests from Suna, our men will take care of this situation. We won't let them escape. Send teams of Anbu to circle around Itachi and Kisame to cut them off, Kaharu commanded the Anbu guard nearby. The Anbu exclaimed, yes, I will notify the chief immediately, and then he vanished into a cloud of smoke. The hornet's nest was raised by Itachi and Kisame. Jiraiya, Hiyashi, and the other Konoha shinobi hurried to help Sasuke and Naruto. The two S-class criminals were proving to be a difficult challenge for the young team to handle. As they engaged in a furious taijutsu battle, Itachi questioned his brother, you've matured your Sharingan and you have improved a bit, Sasuke. However, you are still weak. Where is the hatred and animosity? I'll live my life my own way, Itachi. Weak, naive child. There's no way you are going to surpass me by being this weak. Sasuke's form was rapidly becoming sloppy as he became enraged. After hours of training, his body was becoming very tired, and he was now fighting his brother fiercely. Naruto yelled, stay focused, Sasuke, as he avoided Kisami's enormous sword and potent water jutsu. Kisame swung his sword to cut a portion of Naruto's leg, saying, brat, you have no time to be looking out for you, friend. In response, Naruto leapt into the air and slashed horizontally toward Kisami's neck. You little brat, I've seen that attack before, Kisame remarked. Just as he was about to land, he simply kept using the momentum of the slash, twisted his body, and slashed at Naruto again. Quick thinking allowed Naruto to briefly neutralize Kisami's sword and save his leg from being chopped off by driving his wakizashi downward into his blade. He was completely taken aback, though, when the man's massive sword hardly moved. A light. Wait, like you can never move Samahada even with all your strength. Kisame said as she propelled Naruto skyward in a single upward motion. Feeding time. Sweeten. Sway. Rend, but before he could finish, he had to avoid getting impaled by Naruto's wakizashi. After Itachi gave him a kick to the stomach, Sasuke landed close to Naruto when he was eventually able to touch down. "We're not going to win." Angry, Sasuke gritted his teeth. "I am aware. I had no intention of defeating them. We just have to hold out until help arrives. This is a defensive fight, Sasuke," Naruto uttered. "You guys did great, Naruto and Sasuke, but it's officially over now," Itachi remarked, Kisame standing next to him. "We have 5 minutes before the reinforcements arrive," Kisame said. "Yes, you two performed admirably." When Itachi and Kisame heard a voice behind them, they instantly slashed back, thinking it was good practice. "You two have really quick reflexes." As the two men's attack concluded, Mayushi spoke, standing behind Naruto and Sasuke, his image fading behind them. Mayushi's arrival caused the atmosphere to change completely from semi-serious, almost playful to cold and serious. Itachi and Kisame knew this man was no pushover and they had to be deadly serious. Itachi questioned, his eyes narrowed and his Sharingan swaying menacingly. "Are you Naruto's trainer?" "You really are a sharp kid," the elderly man retorted. "Why is everything so tense now when we were all having a good time moments ago?" Mayushi inquired with confusion. "He has absolutely no fear of them," Sasuke pondered. "Why couldn't we feel you?" Kisame inquired. "Because I requested that you not." With a casual response, Mayushi said. "Kisame, we ought to back off," Itachi calmly stated. "This mission is a failure because we are currently powerless over the situation." "Yes. If we don't get out of here quickly, things will get really dicey," Kisame agreed and said. With a joyful wave at the two men, Mayushi said, "Bye, and thanks for training the boys." Itachi's highly perceptive eyes took in every little detail they could. "When we next get together, it won't be like this," Naruto addressed his two opponents. Kisame shot back, "Don't get cocky, kid, we weren't serious." "Let's go, Kisame." "Yeah." The two men vanished after that. "You were watching all the time here?" Naruto inquired of his master. "Yes, I came to see what was going on because I felt you were in trouble. Although it was beneficial training for the two of you, you didn't perform well enough to face them alone." "How did you get behind my brother and not let him see you?" Sasuke questioned, startled. "Well, I simply moved behind him." It annoyed Kisame and Itachi just as much as it annoyed Sasuke, to which Mayushi replied with a bewildered expression on his face. "Teach me. I can be strengthened by you to kill him." Sasuke made a demand. "Your heart isn't in the right place, kiddo, and who do you think you are to be bossing around like that?" "Nope, no can do." With a serious expression on his face, Mayushi questioned Sasuke. They had a brief conversation before Jiraiya and Hiashi arrived. "Where have they disappeared to?" questioned Jiraiya. All Mayushi did was gesture. "They went that way." "You drove them away on your own?" asked Hiashi, his serious demeanor belying a hint of curiosity. "Well, not really, they ran out of time to apprehend Naruto. All in all, it was a good show with lots of action. I wish some popcorn were here." The blue-skinned guy was an absolute monster, and that Itachi kid is a real talent. They were merely teasing Sasuke and Naruto. Mayushi said, "I intervened before things got serious, as though it were all a game." "You were aware that they were taking on two S-class criminals, Mayushi-san?" Hiashi inquired. "Yes, but it served as beneficial training for them. The little skirmish will boost their skills significantly, putting your students in life-threatening situations is the best way to teach them. I had no intention of causing those two to hurt the boys." Hiashi simply nodded, realizing what Mayushi was attempting to accomplish. Jiraiya ordered, "Okay, let's head back to the village and let the Anbu handle this for the time being." Jiraiya said, "Naruto, we're leaving in 2 days to go find Tsunade. And your training continues when you return," Mayushi stated. 1 week following the Akatsuki incident, Kakashi and his men were waiting for the Kumo force to arrive in Shimo country. The 50 or so shinobi, most of whom were Earth-type chakra users, were all dressed in Iwa uniforms that had been saved from the previous Shinobi World War, and every single one of them had received training in Iwa's specializations and formations that Kakashi had managed to record with his Sharingan during the Great War. As soon as they arrived in Shimo country, Kakashi and his men set up a number of traps to impede their pursuers when the time came to flee. As the Konoha shinobi prepared for their ambush, the intended prey was moving toward Konoha through Shimo country. The Raikage gave the order for a battalion of shinobi to encroach on the borders of the Land of Fire in order to test Konoha's military might. Kumo would use the information from these early skirmishes to decide whether to press forward with further military action or to halt hostilities and wait for a more favorable opportunity. Unfortunately for Kumo, the Konoha shinobi were one step ahead of them. Leading the battalion of Kumo shinobi toward Konoha was Darui, the Raikage's right-hand man. His orders were to encroach as far as possible into the Land of Fire while minimizing casualties. The mission's objective was to test Konoha's military might in light of its recent invasion by Suna and Oto. Darui and his men were about a day's march away from Shimo and about 4 days to the Land of Fire. The Kumo shinobi were sure that their mission would succeed, as Konoha was recuperating from a vicious assault by 2 rival nations. It was ready for the murder. "We've finally had the opportunity to engage in combat with the Konoha shinobi," Adari.san. "We ought to be in for a great battle if the reports are accurate, don't you think?" the youthful and vivacious Kumo shinobi exclaimed. "Go easy on yourself, Obi. It is not a game, war is." B.San taught you this, didn't he? Samui inquired. "Yeah, but I like fighting strong opponents and Konoha seem to be pretty strong according to the reports." "Stop talking, Baka," Karui, Obi's teammate, said as he delivered a forceful blow to the young child's head. A small bird glided above them on the blustery currents, observing the Kumo force below with critical eyes, soaking in all the information its eyes could gather. Below, a Yamanaka shinobi lay motionless on the ground, centered around all his team leaders, utilizing mind body switch jutsu to track the enemy's whereabouts. In this instance, the Yamanaka stole into the body of a small bird that was common to the Shimo region. Soon after, the shinobi opened his eyes and said, "It will take about 2 hours to reach a battalion of 400 Kumo shinobi. As the Nara and the Uzumaki predicted, they're coming straight toward us. All right guys, it's almost time. Recall that we intend to execute a prompt and effective surprise attack on our adversary. We will take advantage of the enemy's regrouping to begin our withdrawal from Shimo country. Recall that we are not going back to Konoha at this time. We will be retreating in the direction of Iwa. The idea is to give the impression that Iwa is attacking the Kumo shinobi. Break into your respective groups of 10 and take up the assigned positions," Kakashi ordered. "You get it, sir." As the various groups separated and took up their respective positions, the men spoke. Once each team had settled in, they all gave the signal that they were prepared to move. "All right, let's take our positions." Raising his hand to his lips, Kakashi said, "Maizei Gakure no Jutsu." Camouflage concealment technique. The other shinobi wove in the same sign and they all vanished in unison. After 2 hours, the Kumo shinobi were gradually approaching Shimo country. The battalion was divided into 4 groups of 100 shinobi, each moving in tandem with the other. Since their intended enemy lacked the military might to mount an offensive against them, the Kumo shinobi were completely unprepared for what was about to happen, with the exception of Darui, the battalion leader, who was in the second group. There's a problem," Darui said. "What?" his second-in-command stated. "We're in Shimo country. We're not close to Konoha yet." "Yes, alert the first group to remain vigilant." Nevertheless, the messenger was unable to deliver the word before the deadly ambush began. 100 Kumo shinobi were slain in an instant, as massive rock pillars uprooted trees, leveled the ground, and sent shockwaves across a large swath of land before the men in the battalion's first wave could even begin to respond. Realizing the attack, Darui gave the order for his men to scatter. Each group divided into 3 sections and dispersed to find the enemy. The attack's impact decreases as we spread out more. The men fanned out at once, doing as their leader had instructed. Unfortunately, that's precisely what Kakashi wanted. When Kakashi realized that the Kumo shinobi were acting exactly as he had anticipated, he immediately gave the order to launch the second round of attacks. "Doden! Tsuchi Kairo!" was the cry of the second Konoha shinobi group as walls of earth surrounded them, trapping them. The Kumo shinobi quickly reacted, using their lighting jutsu to break out of the prisons, though not all of them made it. The mission was completed following the second wave of attack. The Kumo were taken by surprise, split up, and unsure of what was happening beyond a possible Iwa shinobi ambush. Kakashi then gave the all clear for the last round of attacks, and the Konoha shinobi once more expertly timed their devastating strike. The last group of shinobi from Doden, devouring earth no jutsu, cried out, encircling and crushing any enemy caught inside with massive rocks shaped like jaws. The 3-wave ambush was lethal and precise. The first wave's objectives were to scatter the enemy and deal as much damage as possible. The second wave's goal was to apprehend and confuse the enemy, and the third wave's goal was to deal more damage. Now it's time to back off. They will make an effort to identify the perpetrator of the attack, Kakashi declared. Kakashi and his men decided to give Kumo's sensors a little assistance, so they dropped the invisibility jutsu and began to rally at the designated retreat point. Soon after, Kumo's sensors fell for the bait. Sir, the attack was carried out by 50 Earth-type shinobi. It appears that we came across a scouting and reconnaissance team. The kinds and patterns of their attacks suggest that they are Iwa shinobi. In which way are they going? Darui inquired. The sensor answered, it appears that they're moving toward Iwa. Why would Iwa ambush us now, especially since they're battling a plague? This is weird. I don't know, the Iwa shinobi are some strange ones. Okay. Send a few teams to track them down before they reach the border, and in the meantime let the rest of us report back to the Raikage. Konoha's scheme succeeded. Naruto and Jiraiya were approaching Tsunade at one of the many gambling dens in Konoha while word of Iwa's ambush on Kumo was spreading. However, as they neared, they heard a loud boom echo in the area, and soon after, they saw clouds of smoke and dust in the distance. Kid, let's go check what's going on. Yeah, let's go. When both men arrived in the town, they found the gambling den half destroyed. Tsunade standing in the middle of the street with a shinobi at his throat and his allies lying dead all around him. He tried desperately to break free from Tsunade's vice. Like hold on his throat, but she was using her chakra to block his nerves, leaving him essentially paralyzed. Hello Tsunade, it appears that you have been quite busy lately. Jiraiya attempted to soothe the enraged Tsunade with a cheerful tone. Jiraiya Baka, what did you do? Knowing that her former teammate was somehow responsible for the mess she was in, she yelled at her. Jiraiya merely said, pointing to Naruto. I promise that wasn't me. The child is entirely to blame. With his head still lowered, Naruto moved forward, bowed, and uttered, Tsunade. Sama, please return with us. Konoha needs you.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.